Button. I'm hitting it now, right?
Yeah.
All right. The button has been hit, I believe. Hopefully everything is working correctly. Welcome to the Xbox 2 podcast. I am one of your hosts, Rand Jez, the man with the million. And with me, as usual, is the one, the only, Jez Corden of Windows Central. Jez, it's another day. It's another Friday. It's another Xbox 2 podcast. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing pretty good, but Rand, we should be asking you how you are since it's your big day.
Yeah,
the big 4-0. Happy birthday, my friend.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It sounded like you're just like, what, my life is ending now that I hit the big 4-0? Oh my god.
Nah, they say life begins at 40, man.
Do they?
Isn't that what they say?
I thought they said life begins at 30.
Well, it's changed now. Now that I'm past 30, it's changed.
Oh, okay. That's okay. Yeah, thank you very much, Jez. Thank you everybody in chat for the birthday wishes on Twitter. It's really difficult to get through to everybody, reply to everybody. I always try to do my best, but yeah, it's my birthday. I turned 40, which is, man, I don't know. I think one of the super chats says basically that I'm going to be going through. VSim says happy birthday. Flame says, Jez, tell your co-host happy birthday for me, the man with another year under his belt. Also, OnlyFans is going to stay alive, so don't lose hope. And then the Glitch Doctor says, Randall Thor, the man with the midlife crisis. Happy birthday. There we go. I hit 40. I woke up today and I'm like, what am I doing? I'm 40 years old. I run an Xbox podcast. I talk about Xbox on YouTube. Like, what am I doing with my life? I'm playing video games. I'm talking about Halo Infinite and Saints Row on the internet. Like, what am I doing?
You're bringing happiness. You're bringing happiness to the people.
Yeah.
Man.
I guess.
Don't sweat it.
Yeah. Definitely. Who would have thought? Gaming at 40 years old. I'm sure my parents must be very proud. Oh. What Yeah, but, I actually wanted to do this show today because I like doing the show on Fridays, even though it's my birthday. And it's nothing like special where it's like, oh, take the day off or take the week off for the birthday stuff. It's like, I love doing the podcast with you. I look forward to it every single week. I look forward to talking to everybody in the chat. And so it's like, I never view this stuff as work. And the minute I think of YouTube or the podcast as work is the minute I will stop doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
That's not why I started to do this in the first place. It was just to like hang out and chill, talk about the good things. Sometimes, be a little bit critical about the stuff that we all love and want to get better. But it was never about like wanted to be work and stuff. So that's why we're here. To appreciate gaming and everything and, how it makes our lives better. Definitely gaming's made my life better. What about yours?
Yeah, I'd say so.
It's your job, right? That's what you do. Of course.
I was on minimum wage before all this stuff, and it wasn't fun. So I owe a lot to video games. But, and that's why I want to give back. I want to give back to the peeps, bring them news, fun, chill times on a Friday. And, that's what we'll do. That's what we will endeavor to do.
So I hear you were a guest on another podcast this week, and you might be leaving the Xbox 2. What's going on?
No, never. I will never leave the Xbox 2. But I was on another podcast. I was on Defining Duke, and I believe you were on there as well.
I did. Yes, they asked me to be on, and then they asked you to be on. So what are they trying to do there? Are they trying to make Defining Duke like Xbox 2 adjacent? Like back-to-back guests, Cognito. What are you trying to do there, brother?
Maybe, man. But like, it did crack me up though because I didn't realize how old Mr. Matty plays actually is, and he had a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles t-shirt on, and we were talking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which was shown off a little bit at Gamescom, Gamescom opening night live or whatever it's called. And, we were talking about it a little bit. and the new game uses the old style, the 90s style of cartoon. I honestly, Rand, I didn't even know that there was any Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoons after the 90s cartoon. I made a joke about it, and Mr. Matty Plays just didn't get it because he's too damn young to have watched the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And then it just felt old. It felt really old, Rand. But not as old as you, obviously.
I mean, how old are you? What is your
I'm
current
34.
age? 30.
I'm 34.
34. God,
Yeah.
I'm way older than you.
Yeah, sure. You are very, very a lot
Oh
older
my
than
God. That's a big 6-year difference.
There is, yeah. Man, I like this podcast because you make me feel young. You make me feel young, Rand.
I think that 6-year
Thank you very
difference
much
is
for
why you're in love with Pokemon and I'm just kind of like, ugh, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Did you see the cake that Miles Dampier made for me, the Pokemon cake?
I didn't see that.
Yeah,
Was that on Twitter?
Yeah, he tweeted it out on Twitter. Shout out to Lucas Augustus for the super chat. Psychonauts 2 is one of the best games of all time. And our friend Sin Vendetta, happy birthday, Rand. 40 years old is a big milestone that I'll be joining in the next 3 years. Hope your day is awesome. Thank you. And Tom Legg, Rand, birthday. Any word on if Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles will be coming to Xbox later? The wording on that press release was weird, wasn't it, Jez? And this was something me and you actually kind of discussed before when they unveiled that Turtles game from .mu. I put it out there like, I wouldn't be surprised if that's like a Switch timed exclusive, right? And the way the press release was worded was like coming to PC, Switch, and consoles. Not maybe they think of the Switch as not a console, but the way they didn't even bother mentioning PS4 and Xbox, I don't know, leads me to believe that we were right. That Turtle game will be a timed exclusive on Switch. Now then I think they announced local co-op only. When those cool, like, side-scrolling, like, games like that only feature local co-op, I think that's just, like, a big mistake. You know what I mean? Because, like,
Yeah, it sucks, but at the same time, it's kind of like these indie games, a lot of the time, they just don't have the resources to make co-op good. I mean, look at the Ascent. Look at all the issues the Ascent had with co-op. It's that kind of stuff, man. But
yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I don't know. It's just I don't know. Maybe it's just the way, like, it's just me and I always play everything online co-op. It just, I don't know. I kind of feel like it's my excitement level for that game has drastically gone down because I don't really see myself playing single player in a co-op inspired Turtles game. It's like I want to play that with my friends, but if you don't offer it online, how am I supposed to?
Co-op?
What?
Yeah. Battletoads had online co-op, right?
No, it didn't. I don't think so. And neither did like Cuphead. A lot of those, like the only ones recently that I thought that had co-op was like Streets of Rage 4. I think it's
Hang on. Didn't Cuphead say they were going to add online co-op?
They did, but they never did.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they did, but they never ever did.
It's weird. It's weird how that game just sort of disappeared off the radar.
Dude, I think now someone can correct me in chat. Whether it's Pong Soul because he knows everybody or everything. I believe didn't they announce the Cuphead DLC, the last course or the delicious last course in 2018 or 2019? Like, was it 2018? Has it been 3 years since they announced it, or has it been 2 years? If so, like, I wonder what the delay is. Are they turning that into a full sequel? Like, what's going on? Because it's been a long time since we saw that, but. I wonder what, I forget what year it was, but shout out to Fletch in the super chat. Happy birthday, Rand. Has some fries and mayo on me. My buddy Gopher asked me what I was doing today for my birthday, and what I was gonna have for dinner. Like if I'm going out to a fancy restaurant, and I'm like, no, I'm like, I have nobody here to really go out with, so like I'll probably just order something, DoorDash it. I don't know, watch a movie. Maybe play some video games. It's just basically just another day. Except now I'm at that point where like I might be going through a midlife crisis. Help me so. I don't know. Scott says, I got both the Halo system and the controller. We'll definitely be talking about that later. Pajama Shark says, happy birthday, Rand. I hit 40 a few months ago, and it's no big deal. We act young, and that's all that matters. B. Rome says, happy birthday, Rand. 40 doesn't change anything. It's just a number. I please donate $1 to $5 a Super Chat sticker to celebrate. Please donate $1 to $5 Super Chat sticker to celebrate Rand's birthday. Well, I appreciate everyone being here. I appreciate all the support that you always show us on the Xbox too. Even though there's really, last couple weeks, last month or so, there hasn't been too much to talk about. Me and Jez just enjoy bullshitting essentially. Whatever comes to mind, whatever we want to talk about is it's awesome. So shout out to everybody here. Fun Speculation, the man, the myth, the legend, Punkadish, John BX32, Sin Vendetta, 9 Lives, Poochie. There's so many people in chat I can't even read everybody's name. Gunstar, who's always here, always supporting the show. We appreciate so much everyone being here. So Pong did say 2018 and announced indefinitely delayed in 2020. That's what I thought.
Rip.
Yeah, rip. But this week was a big week for gaming. You had 2 conferences, an Xbox show on Tuesday, followed by Jeff Keighley and One Night Live on Wednesday. So everybody was like, okay, it's just like E3 Part 2, right? Well, not so much, right, Jez?
Yeah, it was a mixed bag, shall we say. There's some stuff I liked, but, there's always something to like. It wasn't, I don't know. Gamescom's just never as good as E3, is it? When's Gamescom ever lived up to E3, ever in history? Just never has. So, I guess it is what it is.
I think the last time I remember E3 sort of being relevant for Xbox fans was when they unveiled the first gameplay for Quantum Break a few years ago.
Yeah.
Other than that, I think games.
Was a long time ago.
I want to say the last time I remember Xbox making significant announcements at Gamescom was they announced Halo Wars 2 at Gamescom, and they announced the Tomb Raider exclusivity deal at Gamescom, if you remember, which stirred up a whole hornet's nest because, hey, when Sony does a timed exclusive deal with a bunch of games, whether it's Final Fantasies or Deathloop, everybody's okay. But when Microsoft paid Tomb Raider, or to get Rise of the Tomb Raider exclusive, you remember those articles, Jez? You remember the backlash they got? People were pissed. And I'm pretty sure that was announced at Gamescom. I forget what year, maybe 2015. It was also the year they announced Halo Wars 2 and stuff. So, yeah. But times have changed. I've recently seen articles about how Xbox is leaving PlayStation in the dust, Jez.
That was a Forbes take, wasn't it?
Yeah, that wasn't just like a Forbes contributor, just a random Joe Blow, right? And that was like one of their editors, I think. I didn't read the article. But I've definitely seen a lot more of the. I think my dog's going crazy upstairs. A lot more of the media suddenly being like, "Hey, Xbox, we like what you're doing," and what the hell is PlayStation doing? It's kind of a weird turnaround that I didn't really expect to happen, right? So
yeah, it's been interesting, especially Forbes, who are quite. I don't want to say pandering.
Ooh.
But they go with the flow, right? So they're all about PlayStation last gen because that's where the audience was, and maybe they're sensing that they can get ahead now and start building up an Xbox audience. I've noticed this a lot actually, that a lot of outlets have started taking Xbox a little bit more seriously, not ignoring them completely. I remember talking to people from Xbox PR years ago, and they were saying how hard it was to get some big outlets to pay attention to some of their exclusives, fairly or not, right? I mean, some of the exclusives last gen were not great. Your crackdowns and all that kind of thing, which is fair. But it ultimately goes to show at the end of the day that the only thing that really matters in all this is the quality of the games. And Psychonauts 2 has been executed beautifully well. And if they can sort of keep that momentum You know, you got Forza coming out, which is almost dead cert, right? They have Flight Simulator. They've had a pretty good year overall. I mean, they've released a lot of games that like aren't necessarily what I care about particularly. Like, I'm not a flight sim guy. I'm not a Forza guy. I'm not even a Halo guy,
No,
really.
you're definitely not a Halo guy, Jez.
But it's undeniable that they've had like a pretty good year overall, and the future's only looking bright, you know. And if you're an outlet or a company like Windows Central, for example, we have to put up with the good and the bad, you know. When Windows Phone died, it was a dark time for Windows Central, you know. And when the Xbox One came out, it was rough covering that console, especially during the Terry Myerson era, you know. But we you know, because we focus on one platform, put up with the good and the bad, and it'll be the same for you, like as a YouTuber and stuff. Put up with the good and the bad,
Yeah.
and but like some of the multi-platform outlets, they're starting to sit up and take notice of Xbox, which is really cool to see. But it just goes to show, you know, it reflects the Xbox, the quality of Xbox's product being reflected back in the media, and the future's bright, man.
Yeah, that's what it is. I mean, you had a lot of Xbox fans accusing a lot of outlets of media bias, and now PlayStation fans are doing the same because they see some of these articles and they're like, "What the hell is this? We dominated last gen. How dare you doubt Sony?" And it's just really funny to see. Elementapio in the super chat says, "Welcome to the 40 Club, Rand. If Double Fine could get the Barbie license to make a Barbie horse riding game, could that be Game of the Year in 2022?" Well, it definitely seems like Xbox picking up Double Fine was a very solid, very good investment after the reception of Psychonauts 2. Do you think we'll see Psychonauts 2 nominated for Game of the Year at the Keighleys at the end of the year at the Game Awards, Jez? Do you think it has a chance?
Is that what we call them now, the Keighleys?
You know, to separate it from other Game of the Years at different websites. I've always seen Jeff Grubb refer to it as the Keighleys. And I kind of you know, continue to say like, oh, it's just the Keighleys.
It is the Keighleys. That is completely right.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, when I previewed it, I said this is Game of the Year material. Like it truly is.
You did say that, and it just hit 88 on Metacritic, and I think it's like an 89 on OpenCritic. One of the highest reviewed games of the year that isn't like, you know, like a remaster or whatever. And I'm just like happy for the team over at Double Fine and Tim Schafer for seeing their vision. You know, Xbox bought them in 2019. The game was supposed to be out in 2020, but they basically delayed it a whole year, gave them all the resources and time. Like, I even think they put in the boss fights back in because those were taken out because of the limited budget and all that stuff. But it just goes to show you that, like, you make a good product, people will talk about it. And this is what Xbox needs because people are talking about Xbox. Even though it's a multi-platform, Double Fine is going to be making Xbox exclusives going forward. But everybody's talking about Psychonauts 2 and how good it is. And that only helps the brand. And that only is going to get more eyes on Game Pass, which is why I never like the whole, well, it's about quantity with Game Pass. It's not about quality. Because you get more eyes on something and you get people talking about a game when it's actually really good, when it's a Game of the Year contender. When you put out something like Crackdown 3 and it just comes and goes like a fart in the wind, nobody cares. But when you put out something like Psychonauts 2 that resonates with people, it's going to make a bigger impression. And you know,
the quality of the writing in that game is just on another level.
It's amazing.
The only thing that dragged our score down was the animation locking in the combat. The combat feels clunky because, like, when you towards the end, especially when there's like loads of enemies on screen, and we're not going to put any spoilers in here, by the way. We don't do spoiler casts on this show, but there is, as you might expect, as the game progresses, the amount of enemies you have to fight grows too, and the chaos on screen. The combat system sort of fights against you. It's like you try and pull off a combo, you get stuck in the animation lock, and the chaos means you can't even react to an attack. You just get stuck in an attack, which, you know, is clunky. That's the only criticism I have for the game. And I think it's a pretty big one, personally, because like it really pulls down the combat. But that's the only criticism I have of the whole game. And theoretically, that could be fixed with a patch, maybe. You know, I don't know why they couldn't make it so you can dodge out of an attack. I don't know why they can't do that, or why they wouldn't want to do that. So, you know, it was just near flawless. So good writing. I really do think they could turn that into a media property.
They probably could.
Get Netflix on board. Make a Netflix show. They got the Monster Hunter Kids show now. Have you seen that?
I did see that. Yes.
Yeah. Do that for Psychonauts. It'll be good.
Yeah. Valorant says, "Happy birthday, bro, Tato Chip. The big 4-0. Guess it's time for a Harley or something. Have a good one, sir." Yeah, Harleys. Cubini Gaming says, "Happy birthday there, man with the million. Us truck drivers out here love to listen to your podcast content, or listen to your content. I will burn it up, the Miles. Happy birthday." Well, yeah, I guess like we keep people company on the road when they're driving cross country, Jez. Do you ever think that would be the case 5 years ago, or when we actually met at E3 2016? So I tell everybody when people ask what's the genesis of the Xbox 2 podcast, I'm like, when I met Jez at E3, because seriously, that's when it all kind of started. We had known each other, and we had talked, but then we actually met in person, and we continued our relationship, on, I guess, on Twitter or whatever you want to call it, because you're over in the UK, or at least was then. But yeah, like that was kind of the genesis of the whole thing, right?
Yep.
Lady Foxfire with the slice of the birthday cake. Thank you, Fox. Really appreciate it. Jorge says, "Happy birthday, Rand. Let's celebrate by eating 40 chips with mayonnaise." No, please. I want my day to actually be great, not ended up puking face down into the toilet. Sin says, "Speaking of online co-op, did you guys see the details on online co-op for Salt and Sacrifice? Man, I'm so hyped for that game." That's the game you got to get Jez to play, right? Punkadish, he says, "Happy birthday, Rand." What?
Isn't Salt and Sacrifice PlayStation exclusive?
I think so. Yeah, I think it is. Punkadish says, "Happy birthday, Rand. Enjoy your day, and for the love of God, don't eat mayo and fries to celebrate." Trust me, I won't, brother. TB says, "Going back to last week's topic, Sea of Thieves DLC, Secret of Monkey Island remade in first person. Take my money." Now that is a good idea, and there was some Easter eggs in the Pirates of the Caribbean stuff, so maybe that's something they can do. Graham says, "Happy birthday, Rand. I hope you have a good day. Thanks a lot for the Friday evenings. It's always been a pleasure listening to you guys. Enjoy." Arigato says, "Happy birthday, Randy. Are you guys going to talk about the Halo XP situation? Because if COD is a better progression system than Halo, there's a problem." Oh, believe me, Halo is a big topic for the podcast, and we will talk about everything surrounding it. Josh Tarpley says, "Will Xbox One players have a choice on Halo Infinite between 30 frames locally and 60 frames streamed with latency?" Yeah, that's something that's interesting, Jez. Like, that's part of the Xbox Game Pass Gamescom announcement was, which we knew was going to happen. xCloud is coming to consoles, right? So someone on an Xbox One console could basically play locally Halo Infinite at 30 frames, but if they decided to play it through the cloud, you would assume they're going to be playing a 60 frames version of the game, like the Series X version, right?
Yeah, you'd think that.
So I wonder, which version would you want to play? The streamed version at 60 frames 1080p, or the 600p 30 frames Xbox One version? I guess it depends on which one plays better, or the latency and everything, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
That is interesting to think about. Where you could essentially play the better versions of cross-gen games because of xCloud, right?
Yeah, I think that's the idea, is that you bring the Xbox One forward, and with cloud streaming as an option. Because honestly, Rand, I've been using cloud streaming more and more and more since they did the Xbox Series X upgrade.
I mean, you post about it on Twitter like every day almost.
Yeah, because like I use it, like I actually use it, because I'm living with my girlfriend at the moment, and she keeps stealing the TV. So it's a godsend to have if your TV is being stolen by family. And I bought a Samsung Galaxy Fold 3 as well, because I wanted to have a bigger screen for xCloud, and it is absolutely amazing. It's such an amazing experience on the Galaxy Fold 3. You get like a Nintendo Switch like size, like it's like 9-inch across the screen, and when you fold it out, you get like the full-blown screen, all the beautiful colors, 5G, 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi, and since the upgrade, it has been almost like just playing on an Xbox. It's been absolutely flawless for me in Europe. Like, and you can argue that I live near to a data center, but I really don't. Like, I live in the sticks in the south end of Bavaria in Germany right now. And I do live relatively close to a data center in the UK, but I do not live that close to a data center in South Bavaria. I think the nearest data center is Frankfurt, which is, it's a good 3-4 hour train ride from where I am right now. It's not the furthest away from a data center, but it's not the closest. But I've been playing like Hades on xCloud, like with no lag whatsoever, not affecting my play whatsoever at all. I've been playing Pillars of Eternity again, which it's like it's not a fast-paced game, but there's just no lag, and I just forget that I'm using xCloud. I just forget that it's streaming because it just feels native. It really does feel native, and I don't know, whatever they did. If seriously all they needed to do was upgrade the servers to Series X, it's like black magic now. It really is amazing. It's just perfect. I always thought there'd be like some kind of lag that stopped it from feeling good, but they have just nailed it now for me. They've completely nailed it.
You don't even need an Xbox. You're almost always just playing on your mobile device or whatever, that Surface Duo that literally nobody else in the world has.
Well, like I say, I'm playing on the Fold 3 now, the Galaxy Fold.
So,
but that's the thing, Rand. Like, I still need my Xbox because you can't play games you own on xCloud.
That is not yet. Not yet. I think they've talked about that is part of the roadmap in the future. I think they're just taking one step at a time. But that is definitely something they have to do, right?
When we get to a place where every single game is on xCloud, that's going to require a lot of servers, I think.
Yeah, probably. Probably a lot.
Because right now you can only play like a small subset of games, and there are loads of great games on there that I do want to play. But I've been playing this game recently called what's it called? It's called Fuga Melodies of Steel, and it's a side-scrolling JRPG. It's similar to Advance Wars, if anyone remembers that game. And I've been playing that a lot on my Xbox right now, and I keep thinking, man, this side-scrolling turn-based tactics game, it's got a very chunky UI as well. Like, it'd be perfect on a smaller device. It's clearly ported from the Nintendo Switch, clearly, because of how big the UI is. And I'm sitting there thinking, man, I want to play this on my phone, but I can't because it's not on Game Pass. So I really like now that we've gone past the stage of xCloud's too laggy. Now I'm in the stage of, man, there's not enough content. So that's how far we've come with xCloud, and it's really cool, man. It's exciting to see.
Yeah, it's definitely come a long way. Josh says, will Xbox One player... Oh, I already read that one, and we answered that. Mad Will says, here, buy a jar of premium mail. And the whole mail thing. I've actually gotten DMs, and I've seen reviews of the show that hate the whole mail and Kardashian stuff when we talk about it, which is why we brought it up less and less, because apparently that bothers people. I don't know. It is what it is, I guess. Aquaman says, happy birthday, the man with the million. Shab says, happy birthday, Rand. Please have fries and mayo on me from a Londoner. I guess one of these days I'm actually going to have fries and mayo and stuff. Ugh, I don't want to, but Sylar says, UPS driver here. I concur with the truck drivers. Keep on keeping on, Rand and Jez. The one and only Brap Enrique says, happy birthday, Rand. Cheers, guys. Thank you, Brap, for all the support, man. Sin, I believe the exclusivity for Salt and Sacrifice is timed exclusive deal, just like Salt and Sanctuary was, but I don't believe it'll be nearly as long. Handicap Gamer says, another great show, Jez and Rand. Got myself both the limited Halo console and controller, and we got games and studios, just need myself the fridge. Yeah, the fridge coming at the end of the year. Sounds like you just spent $750 on the Halo stuff, not including taxes. That's very, very expensive. Hope you enjoy it. I'm really interested to see how many people actually were able to get both of those. I was not able to get either. Even though
Did you try?
No, because I actually really didn't. I wasn't around when all that stuff went live. I kind of do want the Elite controller, and I don't really need another console, to be honest with you. I already have a Series X. It's like, do I really want to spend $550 for a custom Halo Series X console? That's the question I was asking myself, and it's like, do I need to spend that type of money for a console? I already have one, so it's kind of like, I do need another
It does look
controller.
very nice, though.
You know, I do need another Xbox controller, so maybe I'll get, because my Elite Series 2 did break. So, but then it's like, well, my Elite Series 2 did break. Do I really want to spend all the money on another Elite that may or may not break, right? Space Dovakin says, "Happy birthday, Rand." So, guys, did y'all see that article on the Microsoft-owned site recommending to not pre-order Halo? PS fans are rejoicing on Twitter. Oh yeah, we're gonna talk about that in a minute, Jez. Slow-mo, what's up, bro? He says
What did
HBD.
he call the site? Sorry.
What?
What did the last guy call the site?
He says the Microsoft-owned site recommending not to pre-order Halo.
He's talking about Windows Central.
Well, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. We'll talk about it in a minute. Slow-mo. Slow-mo says, "Happy birthday." Was gonna send a super chat in the amount of Rand's age, but I'm not that rich, so winky face. But seriously, 4 completed runs in Hades now. I'm addicted. Yeah, get those. You gotta at least get through 10, Slow-mo, so you can actually sort of get the first ending with the credits and everything. Because that game is incredible. And RDX Son of Fett. I like how PlayStation said your Engine 5 or Unreal Engine 5 was only possible on the PS5, but Stalker 2, the first Unreal Engine game is an Xbox exclusive. Softblow Gaming says, "You think we will be able to buy games in xCloud?" I mean, I think everything will be purchasable, and then you should be able to then stream everything in xCloud.
We'll talk about that more in a bit.
Wilbo Gaggin says, "Happy birthday, mate. 6 a.m. here. Been playing Hades all night. First time I've done that since 17. It's a very special game." Indeed, it is. So thank you guys for all the happy birthday wishes. It's a rough day for me. 40. It's not so happy. But man, let's talk about Psychonauts 2 before we get into all the topics. So if you guys are enjoying the show, if you want to do me a favor for my birthday, make sure you hit that like button and share this out on social media, or subscribe if you're new here. But Jez, we both previewed the game. We got it early from review for Microsoft. I know you said it was a Game of the Year contender. You talked a little bit about it. Any more thoughts on playing the full retail version for Psychonauts 2?
Well, like I think I mentioned before that the preview build, there were rules about where you could and couldn't go in the preview build, but I ignored those rules. Well, yeah. I didn't ignore them. I just didn't read the email because I'm lazy or whatever. But so I did, in the preview build, I did come across a load of bugs, but the full game is pretty much bug free. Save for the, it's not even a bug. Like the combat, I mentioned the combat design being a bit iffy in places, but that's the only criticism I can leverage at the game. And it is it's a super story-heavy game, so the combat's kind of secondary anyway. And the combat's never really truly challenging. It's just sort of there to supplement the experience, which I'm okay with, But I generally don't like. I often don't like or care for games that are super story-heavy, unless they're very mature. Dragon Age or something like that. But this was so well written, the sort of quality, and I think maybe this is like a Disney bias kind of thing. Like when it comes to family oriented stuff, maybe because I grown up with Disney and a Hollywood kind of stuff, I've always got a higher expectation of that kind of genre. But this was totally Disney Pixar quality writing. Totally Disney Pixar acting, the animations and everything like that. It just felt like such a high budget game, even though I know full well it wasn't a high budget game. It was a Kickstarter game, for God's sake. And yeah, Microsoft did contribute to pushing it over the finishing line or whatever, but it just goes to show that the sheer volume of talent that exists within Double Fine has been unleashed thanks to that bigger budget. And thanks to that, that help they've had and stuff like that. I feel like Double Fine's games have always had this sort of like you can feel there's just something amazing and special about them. And Microsoft has spoken about this when they approach acquisitions. Rand, they speak about how like their approach to acquisitions is like they want to find studios they can elevate. And I feel like we're seeing the first signs of that with Double Fine. Like Double Fine was always a special studio, but their games were held back by technical issues or like narrow scope and stuff like that. Um, but man, Psychonauts is just so damn special. And I, like I say, I often I'm too jaded and bitter to appreciate these colorful, happy-go-lucky sort of games. But this is just so deep and so well done. I'm like just super stoked for the team, and I take this as evidence that Microsoft's strategy is a good strategy, and just look forward to the future, man.
Yeah. So I finished the game. And man, I basically spent the weekend playing it. I spent 6 hours on a Friday and 6 hours, 7 hours on a Saturday, just playing it nonstop because it just hooked me. Like, I think maybe the beginning of the game with the introductory level, you know, where you're in like the dude's mouth because he's a dentist. I think it's a little bit of a slower pace. And you do the casino stuff and it starts picking up. But then you eventually get to the point where, I don't know, you do the psychedelic level, which was incredible. And each one of the levels are so different, so unique. They're a lot of fun to play through. They deal with these really mature themes of problems that people really do like have, and how, you know, Raz helps them basically sort of resolve their issues in a good way. Yeah. It was really cool to see certain levels and how they played out. I don't know if you got to the level where Bob's level with the drinking and how that manifested itself in the level through the gameplay mechanics. Like really, really poignant. So like I really enjoyed those aspects and how each one of the worlds was completely different from all the other ones. And then you have like the open world where you can go and explore. There's actually quite a few of them. Honestly, the game's amazing. It'll definitely be in my top 10. I don't know if it'll make my top 5, but this is a game that I was expecting nothing from. It's been a long time since I played the first. I really enjoyed the first, but it's been 17 years or whatever it's been. So it's one of those things where, you know, and I remember back in 2019 when they bought Double Fine, I was like, listen, I understand Tim Schafer and Double Fine, they're legends in the industry, but did we have to sort of dedicate an E3 segment to them? But hey, you know, I'm not always right. You know, sometimes, you know, you want big announcements, and at the time, Double Fine wasn't one that kind of like brought the house down, but now you can sort of see what Double Fine brings to Xbox Game Studios' catalog. They're going to make type of games that really nobody else is going to make, and they're very creative. So, you know, you look at the reviews for this game, and it's, I don't know, like Psychonauts 2 is not a game that people make anymore. It's almost a throwback to the OG Xbox era, the PS2 era, right? And I think a lot of people are enjoying that, like, I'm going to say resurgence, but going back to a simpler time in gaming, you know, where everything right now is live services, DLC, season passes, and all that stuff. And here's just a complete story from beginning to end. Nothing to sell you, right? Just unbridled creativity and a great message. You know what I mean?
You touched on something that, you know, really resonated with me. That this idea of going back to simpler times and having a game that's just a game, just doesn't try and sell you anything. There's no upsell. There's no DLC. There's no like service component, whatever. It's just a pure video game. And that is becoming rare, man. It's becoming so rare. Pure creativity. Like, I completely agree. It's almost depressing that it's becoming rare, but alas.
I mean,
hopefully Game Pass will change that.
Hopefully. I after playing Psychonauts 2, like, I love to see what Double Fine's doing next. I know they kind of mentioned a new IP and that they're going to be a multi-team studio, so they're going to be making multiple games. But I mean, Psychonauts 2 is such incredible game. Like, voice acting, story. Like, I was just so engaged from beginning to end. Like I'm at the point, like I said, like I played for like 6-7 hours 2 days in a row, and I was just like, okay, what's going on? Well, I don't want to spoil anything, but like I was into it, man. And the only real complaint I do have about the game, there were some graphical glitches. I don't know if it was because I was playing it early, but there was definitely some texture pop in that I would notice on certain things. The combat is probably the weakest part of the game, in my opinion. It's what I would call serviceable. I think you could almost have the game without any combat at all, and maybe the game would even be better for it. I don't know. Like the combat just never gelled with me, and I understand. And that's me saying like I even really enjoyed the enemy designs and how they actually fit into the idea of being in someone's minds. Like you have sensors that stamp out unwanted thoughts. You have doubts, which slow you down. You have regrets, like all the different sort of things. Judges, right? We all feel in our normal lives. They're represented in the games, and that's really cool. I just sort of felt like the combat itself wasn't that enjoyable, but I think it could have been with your psychic powers. Like if a team like Ninja Theory or somebody had made the combat, I could foresee it being something cool. But there was just something off with the dodge and the melee. I just didn't really jive with it. Yeah. So for me, it was like
animation looking.
Yeah, maybe that was it. So for me, that's probably the biggest disappointment. But the game's really not about the combat; it's about the story. It's about everything else outside of the combat. So, please play the game, whether you're on PC, if you're playing on PlayStation, or if you're playing on Xbox. You can play through Game Pass, but it's truly one of a kind. They don't make games like this anymore. And I don't know, Jez, do you think we could see a sequel in the future if this game does well? Could this be a franchise for Xbox? Like, we get a Psychonauts 3 in the future, or... It's
interesting because on Defining Duke, Defining Duke's a Patreon podcast, and they take questions from their Patreon subscribers. And one of the questions basically was, do you think we'll see more of these kind of like third-person platformer action third-person action platformer games, And I kind of felt like they were getting at, could this mean Banjo could come back? And I think ultimately it's sort of it does rest on how well it does, because everyone knows it's on Game Pass, so that's probably going to eat into its retail sales. The fact that it has no multiplayer component is going to eat into its retail sales probably as well, and because it's not a multiplayer game, that might affect its virality, which seems to be the uplift that Game Pass gives to games. It doesn't feel like Game Pass helps single player games at retail in the same way that they help multiplayer games at retail. So I think it really does hinge on how well it does. And like the original Psychonauts was a cult classic, but it didn't sell very well. It really didn't sell very well. So I think ultimately it rests on you guys and us and everyone else to really, talk about and decide whether we want this kind of game again. Because honestly, if it doesn't sell and it doesn't get engagement, they probably won't make a sequel. Because even though I think critics have a lot of nostalgia for this type of genre and people of a certain age, I think the next generation probably just doesn't really care for it. So I don't think even if this I don't think if this hit 95 on Metacritic even, I don't even think that would guarantee a sequel for Psychonauts, because ultimately it's about how well it does. So we just have to wait and see, I think.
Yeah, indeed. Atticus says, happy birthday, Randy. You and Jez are appreciating the community. Keep being awesome, guys. Thank you. Hargit says, happy birthday, Randy. You try the new Halo dynamic background. It's pretty cool. I did. I actually made a little Twitter video about it. I want to see more dynamic backgrounds like that for different games. They should put one out for Forza Horizon 5. The problem with the whole dynamic background system, or the backgrounds in general on Xbox, and Jez, I'm sure you'll probably agree with me on this, is there's so many boxes. It takes up a lot of the visual space. So things are just hidden behind stuff, Yeah. So you can do dynamic backgrounds, but you almost have to make something with the idea that a lot of it's going to be hidden by the boxes, which is unfortunate.
They need to let you adjust the opacity, or maybe let you adjust the amount of boxes on screen and
You know,
stuff.
they did, they used to let you have transparent tiles, but I think they got rid of that. I don't think they let you have transparent stuff
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah, I think you're right.
And Dragon Force says, "Happy birthday, Rand! Just started playing Hades. Such a good game. Personally, in my top 5 of all time. It is an incredible game." Brett says, "I tried forever to get both the Halo Elite Control and the Series X to no avail. Feel there was a lack of foresight in regards to scalpers. Well, the scalpers they're gonna get everything. I don't know what other way they could do it, but it kind of just seems like." I don't know, man. It's just it sucks because I've seen the eBay pages with people trying to sell that system for like $1,000. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. Yeah. Aaron says, "Happy birthday. Love you guys a ton. Thank you." Blue says, "Happy birthday. Gamescom was rewarding. Got a release date for Halo. Doke 5, a game that looks like the word fun. Even if Saints are a reboot, but Fable." Yeah, no Fable there. Matt gave a super chat, but message retracted, so I don't know what it says. Oh, here it is. "Happy birthday, Rand. Keep Mayo and Kardashian. Greetings from Poland. You guys are the best. Thank you." The one and only One Bad Mother of Xbox era says, "Happy birthday, Rand. Psychonauts takes me back to a simpler time in my life when people didn't spread Mayo propaganda." That's true. Have a great weekend, friends. Appreciate it, everybody. So let's get into the topics. Hit the like button if you're enjoying the show. Play Psychonauts 2 if you haven't already. So, I guess there's a lot here to talk about.
Yes.
And I guess we'll just probably start at the beginning of the week, really. Xbox's Gamescom show, which happened on Tuesday, was 90 minutes. And before I give my thoughts, Jez, I want to know what you thought of the show. Paris Lilly, Kate Yeager were the host. They did an incredible job. Paris Lilly is going to be like Paris. He's going to be huge. Dude's a star, right?
Yeah, I agree.
And I think one of the reasons why, even though I thought the show was a little bit too long, at least Paris segments were enjoyable for what they were. Like Paris just has that it factor that I think people look for. But if I'm being honest, well, I do have some criticism of the show. What did you think overall? What do you think of the announcements? I guess we can sort of go through the announcements. So before you give your thoughts, Forza Horizon 5, they showed the first 8 minutes of the game. Looked incredible, and they announced the Forza Horizon 5 limited edition Xbox wireless controller, which I didn't really care for. When I first saw it, I was like, "What?"
Sorry, go on.
Well, I thought
I was going to say that controller's polarizing.
It is. I didn't care for it. When I first saw it, I'm like, "Oh, look, it's a Dirt 5 controller. Wonderful." So yeah, that's and they also announced the cover cars, which are two: the Mercedes AMG 1 and the 2021 Ford Bronco Badlands. God, Forza Horizon 5 looks absolutely ridiculous. For whatever reason, we got a history lesson in Age of Empires 4 about a trebuchet. So they just talked about one weapon in the one game, and yeah,
don't knock trebuchets.
I'm just saying, man. I don't know. We got Microsoft Flight Simulator. They talked about how they're bringing World Update 6 on September 7th. They're going to kind of redo the areas of Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, which I guess I said wrong in my last video because people were clowning me for it. When I speak really quickly, sometimes I'll screw up the words. They're also doing the Reno Air Racing Association, so you can actually do PvP with your friends or against people online about, hey, who's actually the fastest. So that was that. Sea of Thieves wouldn't be an Xbox show without an appearance from Sea of Thieves. It's been 3 years. Sea of Thieves has been around for a bit. They just had their biggest month, and now they're adding a Borderlands ship.
That's kind of random.
Yeah, kind of very random. Definitely was not. When you think of a partner you want to do with the ship, I was like, really? Borderlands? Okay. State of Decay 2 is getting another update. Another game for 2018, still getting updates in 2021. Where I think they call it Homecoming, where you're going to go back to the original map, and they have new weapons and outfits and a whole bunch of stuff. And they announced that game has reached 10 million players. They announced DLC for Wasteland 3, and the guy that came out there was actually very excited about talking and showing his enthusiasm. What else? It opened with a kind of a trailer for Dying Light 2, which I'm sure probably right now is really pissed at Microsoft and Xbox, and are probably maybe looking for a way to delay their game a little bit.
Why?
Because Halo comes out 2 days later.
Oh, yeah.
It kind of reminds me of when the Medium announced that they were releasing like December 16th, and then Cyberpunk 2077 was like, we're releasing December 16th, and then suddenly a week later, the Medium's like, we're delaying our game to January.
Well, I don't think Dying Light needs to worry about Halo.
No.
Not many people are into Lego games.
Are you saying that because you don't think Halo's going to be good? Because I know
I didn't say that.
I know you've been enjoying this past whole week of stuff. With people calling out Halo, with people taking sides and stuff. So I know it fills your black heart with you just loving this.
I don't like seeing people suffer. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Crusader Kings 3 is coming to Xbox later this year with like a port specifically for the console.
Still haven't played that.
Humble Games is bringing a bunch of indies for day one on Game Pass, including Into the Pit and among others. Some of those games did look really cool. They announced a new game called Stray Blade from 505 Games and Point Blank. Looked interesting, kind of Souls-like. And the Gunk had a trailer, and it is coming out in December. And then there's also the announcement of xCloud coming to next-gen consoles as well as last-gen consoles. So that's what Xbox had, right? A lot of people, after it was over, were like, Halo? Where's Halo? It's kind of funny because Aaron Greenberg set expectations, don't expect surprises, expect updates on games coming this year. And I think I said to one of my buddies, is like, when they said updates for games this year, I was expecting to get an update on, the biggest game of the year, Halo Infinite. Even though I think we both knew Halo Infinite was going to be at the Jeff Keighley show the following day, a lot of people were still like, how do you not have Halo at your own show? So with all that recap, Jez, what did you think about Xbox's Gamescom?
Well, I actually didn't watch it.
Of course not.
Fully. I was on vacation at that time, so I did catch a little bit of it, but I was trying to be a good boyfriend and not do work-related things. But I did catch some of it, and I did watch all of the other show, the Keighley's.
The Keighley's. You're going to use that from now on, aren't you?
Yeah. Opening Night Live. Yeah, I did watch that one. But I agree with you on Paris. Paris is a great dude, and his segment's really good. And from what I did watch of it, it just felt like another overly I don't know what you call it, overthought Xbox show. And I just can't help but think like, dude, Nintendo's got a format you can use right over there, and it's really good. It's called Nintendo Direct. Just do it like that. And I did think it was super weird that Halo wasn't there. I heard about that like a few days before, and I was just like, seriously? What is the logic there? And I can't help but feel like it's purely to butter up Jeff Keighley. I can't think of any other reason why you would do that. Like,
you think it's purely like to get on his good side so they can unveil Kojima's game at the VGAs later in the year?
I have no idea, but I don't think that was I don't think you make that decision unless it's some kind of, I don't know, political reason. I don't get it. I don't think Opening Night Live has anywhere near as much clout as an Xbox show would have. So I don't know what the thought process there was. Could be wrong. Maybe they know more than me, but alas, I don't know what I thought of that.
Maybe I speculated that I think they love the metrics they get from Keighley. And I think they wanted Halo to be front and center to the gaming world and not specifically to an Xbox show. Yeah. Right? So it's like you have everybody tuning in to Keighley, PlayStation fans, Xbox fans, Nintendo fans to see the announcement. Like the industry is tuning in for all these things.
I get that.
I also like maybe there's something to the fact that One Night Live is live, and I think the Xbox Gamescom show was recorded 2 weeks prior, so it was pre-recorded, and it's possible that they didn't know the date, although I think that's unlikely. Maybe I think they maybe knew the time frame, but maybe they potentially didn't know the date, so they didn't want to go on a pre-recorded show where they, you know what I mean? I don't know if any of that's. I mean, I'm just spitballing here with ideas about why you would want to put Halo on One Night Live and not put Halo during your own show because, like, you know, we went through this whole thing with the Gamescom stuff. Like, personally, I didn't really think the show was. I think it was too long. I think it reminded me a lot of the Inside Xbox shows that they did. You know, a couple years ago, which they stopped doing.
Was that really a couple of years ago?
I mean, they haven't done it in a while. I sort of feel like they have this problem where they only have a certain amount of content, but they want to stretch it out, right? It's like they had maybe 30 minutes of content, but they stretched it out for an hour and a half. And I also sort of think like maybe it's an ego thing, because I think you tweeted on Twitter like, why not just copy a Nintendo Direct or Sony State of Play? They're very good at getting information across really quickly. You can still have devs talk about it, but it almost seems like Xbox doesn't want to follow in those footsteps, so they have a more personality-driven show, and for personalities to shine, they need more time. They need to ask questions, talk more. And I think because of that, and because Xbox is still at the point where they don't want to show off a lot of their own games, you know, a lot of their new games are essentially still a couple years away, so they're not really talking Redfall or Starfield or Fable or Perfect Dark or anything yet. So you're still kind of just stuck with like Forza and Halo, which they didn't even really talk about. So now you're actually talking about games you've already released. I think most people look at that and are like, well, I'm not really interested in some of this stuff. And a lot of it could have just have been, you know, blog posts, perhaps, you know, trailers released. You know, there's only so much like Paris and Kate can do to make it seem as engaging and fun. But I think the big problem is, and I've said this to people at Xbox about, you know, shows in the past, was like, you don't have the content to have that length of a show. Like, it needed to be 45 minutes to 60 minutes. And, like, it would have went over if you had Halo there. But for whatever reason, you gave it to Jeff. Maybe what they should have done was put the show after Keeley's. So you have Keeley go, and you have him drop all the Halo things. And then the following day, you do, like, the show. And it might have seen in a better light, because then you don't have people being, where the hell is Halo? What's going on? It's seen more as an additional sort of thing, like the E3 extended gameplay showcase that they did a few days after E3, where it's like people, even though like Aaron and everybody like set people's expectations for it, every time there's a show, everybody expects like big announcements, and it's like, that's not going to happen. But I think people really wanted to see Halo, and it wasn't there, so immediately that's like, well, what's the point of the show?
Yeah. I think, like, I agree with you that, you know, Halo should have been there. But I think, like, if they'd gone afterwards, less people would have watched it, because they'd be like, oh, well, we know Halo's not there, so what's the point of watching it? They should have just... They're still struggling to figure out how to brand these shows and stuff. And I suppose you can say, like, I at least appreciate that they tried to have a show. And maybe there's almost, like, a developer relationships angle with this. Maybe they think like this is an opportunity for us to build up good relationships with developers, to put their games front and center and showcase them, even if they're not necessarily the most exciting big AAA games that, you know, we're all waiting for ultimately. So I think like maybe there are reasons to have a show like this, even if it doesn't necessarily, it's not great to watch for the core, and the core just finds it irritating or whatever. I think like there could be reasons why they're doing it that sort of extend beyond what you'd typically expect, maybe. And to that end, maybe it does serve a purpose that we're unaware of. But I've sort of gotten to the point where I only watch them out of professional interest, not because I think they're going to be entertaining, because they're just often not. Like, always have high expectations of E3, but since the Inside Xbox shows, which were almost always terrible, frankly, not to be a dick about it, because I realize there's a lot of effort that goes into these shows, but I just never found them entertaining, and I just feel like I've wasted my time. Like, it feels like they don't respect your time. That's the biggest problem. And those Twitch showcases they were doing, God, if there's ever an example of a show not respecting your time, it's that goddamn Twitch thing. That is just the worst example of that ever. But like, even then, I can sort of play devil's advocate with my own head and say maybe they were doing it because the Twitch audience expects differently. Maybe the Twitch audience likes things that don't respect your time. I don't know. Sometimes I watch a stream on Twitch and think, wow, this guy's not respecting my time. This is boring as hell. And then I'll look at the viewer count and there'll be like 20,000 people watching. So I don't know, Rand. Maybe I'm just old and out of touch. Maybe it was actually great for engagement. And maybe like the people who like it just don't speak up because they're just enjoying it, So I can see it. I can see it from various different angles.
Yeah, that is true. RDX on Effect says devs have called out Ratchet and Clank. I didn't really see that. I did.
They were saying that that's the story that Ratchet and Clank could have been done on PS3, according to a dev or something.
Yeah, according to somebody. Yeah, I did see that. My buddy James Shields says, "Happy birthday, Rand. Does this mean you're Rand Thor 20 now? Jez, hope you're still enjoying Final Fantasy 14. Well, Jez is still enjoying Final Fantasy 14. That's all he plays.
I am. I said earlier, I've taken a break from it a bit. I got through Heavenswood, and I was like, I kind of want to play other games for a bit, so I moved on to Pillars of Eternity and stuff for the moment.
Yeah.
But I do like it.
Polaris Sucks says back to cloud. That's why we love Stadia the last 2 years. It's been flawless, even a bit more than xCloud. It's still here, but Google isn't trying. Shellen Ogden, thank you for the support. Blue Alt says Jez is just mad because Halo doesn't have any Covenant shrimp. By the way, what did he get you for your birthday, Rand? Jez didn't give me anything for my birthday. Actually, I haven't gotten anything for my birthday. I haven't gotten any presents or whatever. Like, nothing. I got some cards from my family, but that's it. Like, I don't know, so.
And it is so hard to ship things from Germany. I did actually think about it, but I tried to ship an ankle brace from my house to Germany recently, and just an ankle brace because I've been having problems with my ankle, and I thought, well, I've got one at home and I don't want to buy a new one. But German customs have confiscated the ankle brace. It's just a piece of cloth. I don't know what's wrong with it, but they've confiscated the ankle brace and it's been stuck in customs for like 2 months. So I was thinking, like, if I ship Rand something, it's just going to get lost, especially if it's food. So, and what else can you buy? The man with the million who's got literally everything because he's a millionaire.
Yeah,
what do you buy? What do you buy someone with everything?
Yeah. Easton Western, happy birthday, Rand. I always look forward to the show. Yeah, so the Gamescom stuff, I don't necessarily think they even needed to do the show, honestly. Like, they have the weekly or monthly Forza streams. The other since Halo wasn't there, it almost makes it seem like, did you really need to do it? But it is what it is. Maybe like you said, there's other engagement stuff that they see from that we don't, and I'm just watching it as somebody as a huge Xbox fan. And I'm just watching it, and maybe it's simply because a lot of what they showed didn't speak to me, like Microsoft Flight Simulator, Age of Empires 4, right? I'm just kind of just like, okay, like, I don't really care about this. So because I don't care about it, I'm just waiting for something that I do care about, which is Halo, and then Halo wasn't there. So, it's not saying Xbox can't put on great shows because their E3 show is like their best one ever. So, they clearly, I think it's just like, the lack of content or wanting to talk about the content is the issue. So like when you eventually have all the content in the world, which they will, then you won't have any problems because you can talk about Redfall, you can talk about Starfield, you can have Todd on to give more details. You can have somebody from Playground on to talk about Fable. You can have somebody from Obsidian on to talk about Avowed, right? Like, you can have somebody from Compulsion on to talk about, whatever their next game is, and someone from Double Fine to talk about their new IP, like someone from Collision on to talk about their new game. Like, I think it's just at that point where none of those games are ready to really show anything or delve deep into it. Also sort of affects what they can and can't say about certain things. Professor Chaos says, "Happy birthday, Rand. Appreciate you, man." And Hargett says, "What do you get, Rand? Maybe the Halo Edition Series X. I wish. So that brings us to One Night Live. You said you watched the whole thing, Jez.
Yes, I did.
What'd you think overall of the show? You said you wanted to talk to me about Saints Row stuff, so give me your thoughts. Like, give me the rundown on One Night Live.
Well, it's... Again, I thought it was a bit long, but I do think Jeff Keighley... Like, I was honestly a bit cynical of Jeff's shows when he first started out doing this. But I do think, like, Jeff does a better job of getting something out of very little than maybe some of the other companies do. And I think Jeff's a great presenter. I really liked his jacket. He had a very nice jacket on the show. And I also appreciate that. I also appreciate the musical performances he puts in there because...
Yeah. I'm sorry, Jez. Apparently it's called Opening Night Live. My bad. Opening Night Live. I don't know why I thought it was One Night Live, but my bad.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Night Live. I appreciate that Jeff puts musical stuff into his shows because I think music's underappreciated aspect of gaming. We always talk about visuals and stuff, but we rarely talk about music in games. So I appreciate the performance that he put in there. There was some really cool games that were shown off, mostly indies that I was interested in. I put a load of games on my personal list of games to check out, but they were mostly indies. But there was a lot of lameness there as well. And some stuff that I realize other people will like the Marvel XCOM game, which leaked before. I love XCOM, but I hate Marvel. And seeing Firaxis sort of... What could have been my XCOM 3 is now some Marvel game. So that was disappointing.
Yeah,
for me.
I heard you went on a rant about it on Defining Duke or something.
Yeah, I did. I did a little bit, yeah.
So what is it basically that you're fed up with all those Marvel stuff, and it's ruining it because instead of XCOM 3 you're getting this Marvel game that you don't want because you hate Marvel? Isn't that basically the gist of it, sort of?
Yeah, that's basically what I said. Semi joking, because I realize that Marvel's super popular and people who like XCOM and Marvel, this is like their dream game. So I don't begrudge anyone who likes Marvel, but I could never get into Marvel. I've tried, man. I've tried really hard to get into Marvel. I just can't do it. I don't know what it is. I don't know if you need nostalgia for it or something, or maybe you just need a happier disposition in your life. A soul maybe. But I just couldn't get into it. So I thought that was disappointing. But man, continuing with this theme of games that are too damn colorful and happy, that Saints Row trailer was just like, is this what reboots are going to be now? Are they just going to look at Fortnite and be like, yeah, we'll appeal to the kids by being Fortnite? Is that what games are going to do now to appeal to kids? Is the next Dragon Age going to look like Fortnite? I'm like, that's total hyperbole. But dude, I think about these things. I think about them. What if the next Dragon Age looks like Fortnite because of this trend?
So you really don't like the Saints Row thing because
I thought it looked terrible.
People are like hating on it, the likes and dislikes of the trailers. They're like, they don't like it. The thing is, I watched it and I'm happy it's back because I do really like Saints Row. However, it's tough to really get really excited for CGI trailers. That's why, I didn't rate like the Xbox show above a 9 because it was like, well, Redfall's CGI, and it's like I'm excited because it's Arcane, but I don't know really much about the game. Are people really that pissed off with the way they're presenting the new Saints Row, Jez?
I did see a little bit about it. I haven't looked into it too much yet, but I did see there were a lot of people who thought it looked bad. I thought it looked bad, but I thought it looked bad because I'm out of touch, and I was thinking like maybe that's what the kids want now. They want their games to look like Fortnite. But looking at social media, it seems like a lot of people don't like the way that game looks. It just looked like contrived or derivative, I suppose is the best way of putting it. It looked derivative, man. It looked like every other boring, lame game that has been announced in recent years that like looks cool and tries to be, you know, I don't know what you call it, man. Just hip and cool. It just looked lame. And it just sort of became like a flashpoint for me where it's like every game's starting to look like this now, and it's just getting so boring for me. But that I am also willing to accept that, like the Marvel thing, this could be a me problem. So, what do you think of the way it looks? You like Saints Row? Thing is, I didn't even like Saints Row before, so I don't really have the right to even complain about this. But what do you think as a Saints Row fan?
I mean, I'm gonna reserve my judgment till I play it. Like, I don't really have any issues with how it looks now. So I think expecting it to look like a 1-to-1 copy of what it used to look like is ridiculous. But it's all about it's all be about how the game plays and the actual humor and the craziness the game offers. So seeing it didn't really phase me either way. I was just like, well, whatever. You know, we'll see how the game actually is instead of a CGI trailer. I'm just happy the franchise is back. I mean, I love Saints Row, so I'll be there day one. So I don't know. Like it just I guess it matters what the game actually looks and plays like. So
yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to Gamer O'Malley. He says anyone can see that Halo is a car crash in super slow motion, but people are more concerned with defending Phil instead of this hobby of ours. Sad-ish. So I guess that's a good segue. Talk about the big announcement, or one of the big announcements from Jeff's show, and that is he debuted a cinematic for the first season of the multiplayer, which I think did a pretty good job setting up the like commander of the academy that we've seen in the trailers. I think it gives her a good backstory. Actually made me appreciate her more than I ever did like Sarah Palmer in Halo 4 and Halo 5. Then Joseph Staten came out, and finally we got the ever elusive release date, which, you know, you tweeted out, hey, Xbox fans may want to watch One Night Live. I was like, hey, we're going to get the release date, I think, which I knew we would. Unfortunately, the release date leaked that morning by Xbox themselves, the Microsoft Store, the PlayStation Store, Walmart. The stores seem to be the worst. Like, can I ask you a question before we get into about this? Like, Is it that hard to not update a store until something's announced? Like, why is it always store listings that ruin stuff? Like, what? Do you know how any of the stuff that goes on behind the scenes? Like, how is it that Halo Infinite store page is updated to December 8th before it's officially revealed? Like, can we stop having this happening? Like, is it that difficult? Like, I would imagine somebody at Xbox has to, like, I don't know how any of this works. I don't even know if this is how it would work. Like, manually, like, set it or whatever. Like, what's going on there? Why is things getting leaked by stores?
I honestly don't know. I know that it has to be manually done if you're an app dev, because I used to dabble with the Microsoft Store and make apps back in the day, like not good apps by any means, but like I used to try. Bless me. I used to try my best, and I made a few apps on the Microsoft Store. You have to do all that stuff manually. At least that's how it was back in the day. So like for me, I'm kind of just sitting there wondering like
Hey,
someone
Rand.
must have just
Jez
got
didn't
the
give me
wrong
anything for
memo
my
or
birthday.
something,
Actually, I haven't
you
gotten
know.
anything for my birthday.
But
I
I
haven't
honestly
gotten any
don't know.
presents or
I
whatever.
honestly don't know. Could be just something really dumb, like someone just screwed up or something. I
Yeah,
don't
but it
know.
always seems to happen quite a bit. So,
It does. It does seem to happen quite a bit.
yeah. Sin Vendetta says, Jazz, if you're looking for something that's not cartoonish or doesn't look like Fortnite, just wait till you play Elden Ring. Game looks incredible. Yeah, he's gonna be on you to play Elden Ring. But
I
Halo
just don't know
Infinite,
if I'm like good enough to play that kind of game.
the release date is not November 15th. It's not November 23rd, which is the date I was sort of saying, or at least I thought was going to be. It's even later than that. It's December 8th. So a Wednesday, which is odd because Microsoft doesn't, normally they usually only release games on Tuesdays and Fridays. So Wednesday, it's odd. It's a day after the 30th anniversary of Bungie event. Bungie's doing that 30th anniversary event on December 7th. They had a whole Witch King or Witch Queen stream, which
What if they're going to announce that they're coming to they're being acquired by Microsoft on that day
yeah, I don't think
to
so.
work on Halo?
I don't think so.
And that's why.
Well, there was
man.
was rumors that there was going to be like some sort of Halo stuff in Bungie's Destiny 2, like Halo Strikes, the Magnum pistol, the battle rifle, the gravity hammer, and stuff like that. I don't know. I don't really think that's gonna happen, but it is interesting that it is happening the day after. Maybe something does. So it's a Wednesday. It missed the 20th anniversary. Halo missed the launch of the new console, and Halo missed the 20th anniversary. But Microsoft does have some things for fans on the 20th anniversary. They announced the Elite Series 2 Halo-inspired controllers, so the very first custom Elite Series 2 with that green, that like kind of green armor that Chief wears with the 117 engraved in the top right corner, selling for $200, which sold out. I actually kind of want it, so hopefully we get another round of pre-orders at some point from different places. And then they surprised everybody with the announcement of a custom Xbox Series X. We had talked about this previously, Jez, and we had both thought, nah, there's no way they're going to have a custom Series X because of the chip shortage and all these different things going on. And no, they did it. And when I actually kind of look back, because we had previously speculated, even going back to last year, like when Halo was supposed to launch last year, like, man, Halo's outside of Minecraft, Halo's like Microsoft. Well, you can even maybe argue Elder Scrolls is bigger than Halo, but those are just, you can have a discussion about it. But Halo is, the Halo put Xbox on the map. It's the premier IP, right?
Yeah.
And we were like, oh, are they going to celebrate the launch of Halo Infinite if it was last year with the new console? And we were like, I don't know. And this year we were like, are they going to do it? Well, not sure with the chip shortage. It almost seems to me with the way it's coming out on the anniversary, like I sort of feel like this was always planned to be this way. That even if Halo Infinite launched last year, the custom console and the custom controller would have been 20th anniversary things. You know what I mean?
It's weird because like the custom stuff looks really cool, but then did you see the collector's edition
of what? And
Halo?
Jack says Elder Scrolls bigger than Halo. You have to be kidding, Jez. Haven't we talked about that before? Elder Scrolls is pretty goddamn huge.
Yeah, Elder Scrolls I think is bigger than Halo, in terms of revenue and in terms of units sold. Basically every metric, I think. I can double check that if you like. But it's neither here nor there. But one of the reasons for that is the Elder Scrolls just been around for longer. It's been around since 1994, according to this. But it's a big bloody game, man. But anyway, What were you saying?
I sort of forgot what I was saying too. What was I saying? Chad, help us out here. I completely lost my train of thought.
Which,
Um,
oh yeah, well, I was asking you if you'd seen the Halo Collector's Edition.
so for Halo Infinite,
Yeah, they've done a Collector's Edition in addition to the limited edition console and limited edition controller, but it's just an art book. Like, there's
oh
no statue, there's nothing really cool in it, and I thought that was weird because, typically collector's editions, like, they go all out or whatever, but I don't know.
no, I didn't see that. I did see like Best Buy's has a steel book or whatever. Um, but no, yeah. So Hargett says so much for Halo being a potential for the Keighley Awards with next year's slated games. It isn't likely to be a contender. Do you think Cyberpunk can redeem itself to be in consideration this year? So that's the other thing with it launching so late is it's no longer in consideration for the Keyleys at the end of the year. It would be for next year, but like I always said, I didn't think Halo had a chance to be nominated regardless. I don't think Cyberpunk's going to be nominated. People, I don't think people even remember like It Takes Two and Hitman 3 from beginning of the year, let alone Cyberpunk. So I don't really think those stand a chance. Now, so we have the release date. How do you feel about it? How do you feel about it being December?
Well, my first thought was like what you said, poor Dying Light, right?
Poor Dying Light.
Poor Dying Light, but I think December's fine, especially because the game's got a free-to-play component. December might even be a good thing because they'll capture the audience that's going home for Christmas or whatever. They also capture the last minute Christmas rush, gives them as much time as possible to polish everything up. So, there's a lot of positives about December. I don't really feel like there's any negatives about December. My whole concern with Halo, and this is on behalf of the fans really, because I don't really care either way, personally. But for the fans, my concern about Halo is that there's still so many unknowns this close to the finish line. Like, E3 passed, we didn't see any real campaign gameplay. And then Gamescom's passed, we haven't seen any campaign gameplay. Joseph Staten said why in a Q&A session, talking about how it's all hands on deck to get the game to the finish line. But should it be all hands on deck at this point at this stage in the game? Does Microsoft really not have any teams that can take a build away and build, like, just record a campaign slice and just present it? Like, is it seriously that down to the wire? So even though I appreciate that Joseph Staten was being super transparent, and I really wish more AAA devs would be, there's something feels off about it. And I felt this way about Mass Effect Andromeda 2. Something felt off about the way they were presenting that game, or should I say, not presenting that game. It almost felt like they were hiding it, to the last minute, because they were, almost apologetic about it. And I feel the same way about this. Now, that could be completely unfounded, and it could launch and it could be great. They've got tons of months left to go. And yes, 343 has been uniquely impacted by COVID. Washington was one of the first states to really have a full lockdown. There was no remote work provisions in place. 343 is a studio that, like, is huge, and they are not designed to work remotely. They're designed for, like, collaborative in-person working, and that whole pandemic thing happened at a stage in development where collaborative working is very important, which is what someone from 343 told me a while ago. And that uniquely impacted 343. But whether COVID's to blame or not, the finished product will be here on December. Well, we say finished product, but it's going to ship without co-op. It's going to ship without Forge, which were advertised as part of the finished product. So we're not even getting the finished product in December, which just makes me worry. We're heading for another, Master Chief Collection thing where they keep developing it the months later based on fan feedback, Like, we're seeing a huge backlash right now to the proposed change to the Battle Pass, where you can't earn XP towards the Battle Pass unlocks just by winning matches. You have to do specific challenges, which means you may have to use a weapon you don't like. You may have to use a playstyle you don't like, which is lame, man. I hate those kinds of challenges. I never do them in Call of Duty, ever. I just never do them. And you can say, well, fine. But then, like, if I don't do these challenges, that means I get no battle pass progression. You know, so, like, I'm losing part of the game because I don't want to engage, potentially, don't want to engage with this system that's being forced on me. I can't even progress slowly by winning matches. I think that's a dumb decision that will be reversed because everyone's complaining about it. But, I don't know. I just hope that it doesn't suck at this point.
Jeez, going in. As I said, your black heart and your hatred for Halo is you're
I just want it to be good. I honestly don't care.
Like literally,
I just want it to be good for the fans.
It's been a week, right? Last week was when this Friday last week was when they initially announced that that Halo or that DLC or Forge and co-op weren't going to launch with the game. And they said the reasons why. People were upset that they didn't see campaign gameplay at Gamescom, even though they said, hey, we'll show it closer to launch. Personally, I think they're going to show it on November 15th. I think that's when we'll maybe get a big gameplay deep dive or another trailer for the campaign on the 20th anniversary. Now, whether or not we see anything more than that, I don't know, because they said they're in shutdown mode and they're squashing high-priority bugs and they're playing through it to get everything right, blah, 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 blah. Now, as far as the release date, I feel like this should have been clear to like almost everybody now back going to E3, because I always sat there and wondered, why the hell is Forza Horizon 5 coming out in November? Because they never come out that late in the year. And it doesn't make any sense to me, especially when you're running a subscription service like Game Pass. You don't want to put your games, your big games, that stacked up. You at least want a month separation. So I always sat there like, what is going, like, Forza's November 9th, and everyone's like, well, the 20th anniversary for Halo's November 15th. Like, you have to launch Halo on the 20th anniversary. And probably in a perfect world, not only would Halo have launched last year with the console, but you can make the argument, well, with everybody was buying the consoles anyways, you didn't really need it for launch. Okay, well then, realistically, you would want Halo Infinite to release on November 15th. But I think when they announced that Forza was coming in November, I think Xbox knew that Halo wasn't going to make that date. And I think they just was like, well, if Halo's not going to make the 15th, then let's just move and give, 3 Playground Games more time. We'll move them from their normal September, October release into November because it's a big franchise. 25 million people have played Forza Horizon 4. We'll give it that slot. Halo can come out, whatever. So, like, seeing the release date, December 8th, does put a lot of things in, like, all the puzzle pieces have fallen into place. It's like, oh, okay, it's the day after Bungie's 30th anniversary. I bet there were talks. It almost seems like it was planned to be like that. With Forza coming out in November, it certainly seems like they knew Halo wasn't going to be ready. Now, whether you can speak to that, or whether that means like, well, how you can speak to like how good or bad the game is going to be because they're doing it's coming out in December. I don't know, but it makes sense from like it's the whole like Game Pass strategy. You got Forza in November, you got Halo in December. You don't want to button those up against each other. You give each of them their space, and it's free to play, right? So everybody's going to download it anyways whenever it's available, whether or not it's before the holidays or after the holidays. People are just going to download it. There's still stock shortages, so it's like you're still going to be selling out of all the consoles as fast as you can make them. So you don't necessarily need to put a product out before the holidays because that's just like what Xbox's whole thing is. So like I'm okay with the date. I will say though, this past week has been definitely interesting because there is a faction of people who want the game to come out no matter what. Like, I've waited long enough. I want to play my Halo. I want to play it this holiday, come hell or high water. And if you are saying you should be delayed to be a better product with co-op and Forge and other things, then you're being selfish, right? You shouldn't delay the game for those reasons. And then you have other set of people who are like, listen, I want Halo to be the best thing it can be at launch. I want it to review well. I want it to be like the Halo that I've always known, which is co-op at launch, Forge for the people that need it, all that stuff, right? I want 343 to completely nail it, give them more time, delay Halo until it's absolutely ready. And there was like a civil war between these groups of people, and some were keeping it respectful. There was definitely others that weren't, and it was just one group attacking the next group. And like, I understand both sides of the arguments, right? I understand people wanting to play Halo this year. You know, like, I'm one of them. Like, I've waited. Like, I want to play Halo. Like, it's my favorite franchise. Give me the campaign and the multiplayer if it's ready. You know, my first playthrough was going to be solo regardless. But then I'm also like, man, I want what's best for the game. I want the game to be in tip-top shape. I want the game to not have any bugs. I want the game to be a complete package. So I'm also of the mind of like, you know what? Delay the game as well. Like, I can wait another 3 or 4 months. It's not that big of a deal. There's plenty of stuff to play. You know, I don't want the narratives that keep on continuing to crop up of, you know, Game Pass allows developers to release unfinished games, right? And I will say, I really like Joseph Staten. I think he's doing a great job of basically coming into what I would probably describe as a complete shit show that 343 was when, you know, Chris Lee and all that stuff left. I will say the one thing I didn't care for in his video, which, you know, I appreciate all the transparency 343 has been giving recently, all their blog updates so people can understand. Like, I don't like the excuse of saying, well, you know, we needed Halo to come out, and we talked about delaying it again, but we didn't, and we just need to begin the journey. And hey, is a live service game ever really finished? And no, not really. So I hate the idea of using, well, because it's a live service and the game's never going to be complete, then, you know, it's okay that we can just fix it later. That's what it sounds like to me. I don't know how many times we've heard and seen from developers that are like, all right, we'll ship the game and we'll fix it later. So I particularly don't like that talk about the live service, about like, it's okay, we'll just fix it. Because, and they say, hey, co-op's coming 3 months later, but like, is it? Like, we don't know that. They could run into more issues. What happens if we go into another lockdown? What happens if they got to go work from home again instead of working from the office? You know, it could get delayed even further.
Things are looking a bit spicy on the available ICU beds in America right now.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think like putting a firm date on things right now is a bit naive. But I agree with you that, you know, this whole live service thing being an excuse for not having a finished game is annoying. And that's the whole thing, really. If you want to make a live service game, make a live service game. Ship Halo Infinite multiplayer separately. And maybe call that Halo Infinite. And that's your Call of Duty Warzone. Halo Infinite is the multiplayer. It is the live service. And then give us a regular campaign that has everything fixed and ready to go. But I'm also of the opinion that I probably would have played Halo Infinite solo anyway for my first playthrough. So it doesn't bother me that there's no co-op there. And I'm never going to use Forge either, so that doesn't bother me either. What bothers me, and I think we talked about this last week, is the feeling that the campaign is going to be subpar. There's going to be something wrong with it. I personally can't envisage an open world game that has an open world single player game that has no form of real progression. I can't envision that. Can't even speak at the minute. Like, I struggle to get over that in Sea of Thieves, which is a multiplayer game. Like, what is the point of Halo Infinite's exploration? Do I get cosmetics for Master Chief? Do I get like a cool hat for Master Chief while exploring? I think they said something like that'll be where your power weapons are hidden, like your rocket launchers and stuff. But do I need to get those? I don't know. Like I don't know. I just can't see it. I think sometimes developers they think that everyone wants open world, but I think some games just don't need to be open world. So I'm very, very skeptical of that working for Halo. You know, I'm very skeptical of it. I'm just skeptical of Halo in general. And this isn't me being a hater of Halo. Yeah, I'm just skeptical in general that open world is the right format for any shooter of that type. Like if Doom pivoted to open world, I'd be having similar feels. Like, really? Does that make sense? Really? I don't know.
Does that make sense for it?
Yeah.
Well, then, so like when they unveiled all this stuff at One Night Live, once again, people were upset that, hey, we didn't see campaign. Like, we've seen multiplayer, we played multiplayer. Like, I don't really think I think the multiplayer is going to be great. Now, I'll talk about my thing with the XP in a second here, but you know, I see people online like, where's the campaign? I want to see footage for it. And I get it, man. Like, people had the same problems with Gears 5's marketing cycle, if you remember, right? They did that original trailer in 2018, and then all of a sudden at E3, it was like, here's Escape. And people were like, well, what about the campaign? And they're like, oh, we're doing things differently. We're not really going to show campaign before launch. And all the backlash from that got them to show the campaign at Gamescom, or at least another trailer. And, you know, the campaign I thought was pretty damn good in Gears, but people felt like, for whatever reason, when you don't see something, people think you're hiding it. And I think there's that fear, as you said, or the perception that 343 is hiding the campaign because we haven't seen anything from it last year. So, and John says in the super chat, last week Joe Staten said they needed to stay focused on shutdown mode and that the campaign gameplay will come a bit closer to launch. So I don't know why anyone was expecting it at Gamescom. Also, happy birthday, Rand. Ooh. I think the reason why, like, that was in a video, and as we know, people don't watch videos. People only read headlines. So I don't think any of the headlines read, you know, the gameplay stuff. It was just, you see Xbox having an event, and they talk about updates for their big games for 2021. You expect something from Halo. And then it doesn't show up, and people are upset. And then it's like, well, okay, maybe Jeff Keighley's going to have something. And then all they have is a cinematic trailer for multiplayer and a controller and a console that's not even launching with the game. That's launching actually before the game. And you don't see more of the campaign, so you're kind of sitting there like, okay, what's going on at 343? And this all could just, you know... The campaign could be absolutely amazing. Like, we'll find out on December 8th. But I mean, hell, one of my favorite creators on YouTube, and I love talking to him, like Kid Smooth, is he's been posting some things on Twitter that's just like, what is going, like, he doesn't like, you know, like he thinks like Halo's being let down by 343, and he thinks it's dead on arrival, and like he's basically like, what is going on at Xbox, and like Forza is great, but it's just a racing game. Like, I've never seen Smooth like that. And then you combine that with like the Civil War that I mentioned of like, should the game be delayed? And the game shouldn't be delayed, that the discussion was last week. It seems like everybody's just at each other's throats about this. And I think everybody wants Halo Infinite to be the best product it can be. They want it to be an amazing game. They want it to review as well as something like Psychonauts 2. They want it to be as acclaimed and as polished as something like Forza Horizon 5, right? Some people will use it as ammunition in the console war like they always do, but most people, myself and Jez, and I'm sure most people in chat here, just want Halo Infinite to be an incredible product from single player to multiplayer. And some people have faith in 343, others don't. This isn't like, I don't know, like Playground Games with Forza Horizon, where like you have faith that whatever they do in Forza is just going to be impeccable. for me, a lot of people, like, I just don't see that the same thing for 343. A lot of people have questions. Like, sure, they nailed the campaign in 4, but they screwed up the multiplayer. And then, well, they nailed the multiplayer in 5, but they screwed up the single player. So a lot of people aren't giving 343 the benefit of the doubt this time, because it's their third game, and this is supposed to be the platform for the next 10 years, and they see all this going on. The delay was supposed to launch last year. Now it's a game in December. It missed like, the anniversary date, and then you hear the stuff about XP, about like just playing like games and getting kills isn't gonna progress your battle pass. You can only get it through challenges. That's not what people want to hear, because it almost seems like, I don't know. I'm not a fan of battle passes in games, honestly. Like, I when I played Warzone, I never bought a battle pass. I don't really care about cosmetics. I'm sure I probably won't care about Halo's cosmetics either. And like, I always thought, like, what's the point if you're only awarding people XP for the challenges that people can complete? And even though they've said they're going to be easy challenges, like play games, win games, get kills, etc., 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 like, when I played the tech test, like, points popped up for getting kills and stuff, and it's like, so you're telling me that this points that you get for kills and the game that, like, that tally up at the end, like, it doesn't matter at the launch? Is that also being delayed to next year? So people are then worried that, okay, I don't care for battle passes, and now I'm going to be forced into basically leveling up my battle pass, or the only way I can earn XP and do things is through a battle pass. Like, I don't like that. And people have been very vocal about their distaste in that way. And I don't know, like, 343 is doing things how they want to do it, but it's just, I don't know. It's weird, because we've come full 60. Like, everybody was disappointed with Halo's presentation last year. I still remember all the memes. We know Craig. I can see Craig when I close my eyes, right? Even though gameplay looked tight, people were pissed that it didn't look super next gen, right? And then everybody was extremely happy this E3, right? So a year later, everybody's like perceptions of Halo shifted, and everybody was super excited about what they showed for the multiplayer and the campaign trailer. And then everybody was even more pumped when they got to play Halo Infinite just this past month, at the beginning of August. Like, people were like, oh man, they've nailed the multiplayer. This is the best it's ever been. Halo is going to be amazing. And then all of a sudden, at like less than 3 weeks later, you have these factions, and people are like, oh, dooming and glooming, right? Like, what is going on with Halo? Where's my co-op? Where's Forge? What's going on with the XP? Like, we've literally come 360 on this, and now almost it seems like the discussion around Halo isn't as positive as it was. It's almost back to the pre-levels, the levels it were after last year's July Games Showcase, where people are down on 343 again. So I understand. Like, I think people love Halo more than they love any other Microsoft property, right? This is the franchise that has brought a lot of gamers to Xbox. I mean, me in particular. Like, I'm on Xbox because of Halo. Like, that's the reason I picked up an Xbox in the first place. So for me, Halo is Xbox. Xbox is Halo, and I think a lot of people are very similar, and they want to see Halo be as awesome as it can be. And they sort of feel like 343 isn't doing, I don't know, like, the best job with it. And there's all these question marks surrounding the studio and the decisions that the developers make, in a way that you don't see with Obsidian or Playground or Ninja Theory or other Xbox developers or other PlayStation developers. Like, nobody really questions Naughty Dog or Sony Santa Monica, or those, like, they have faith. Like, Horizon's Forbidden West gets delayed to 2022. Nobody freaks out that Sony basically said it was coming in 2021 all year long, and then it gets delayed. Nobody's upset. Same thing with, like, here's God of War Ragnarok. We're going to show a logo. There's no way this game's coming in 2021. It gets delayed. Nobody really has outrage, and nobody's like, I wonder if that means the game's in trouble. But with 343 and Halo, it gets delayed, and people are like, is the game in trouble? Like, it seems like 343 is a studio that doesn't get that people don't have a lot of faith in, or they don't get the benefit of the doubt that other studios get. Yeah. And so all this is kind of like collective uncertainty. One group versus the other group is melting in this stirring pot that we call social media, right? And everybody has their own hot takes, their own opinions, and it just exploded this past week, So it's kind of crazy to see, and I don't know how Microsoft must be feeling. I don't know how 343 must be feeling to see the reactions the way they are. Like, they must be like, oh man, what can we do? What can we do? I think a gameplay trailer would maybe. Well, see, that depends, because what if you show a gameplay trailer and it's not what people wanted to see, or people don't think it looks good, and then people are going to say, oh my god, the campaign's going to be terrible. Like, I don't know, like, what are they supposed to do? Like, I understand, like, I'm not a developer, so the shutdown mode thing, that they talk about, like, whatever, but it just seems like, I think every group seems to be involved in this, because you have the Xbox fans who want Halo to be amazing, but I think you have the PlayStation guys who are like, let's hope Halo's bad, because then we can keep on trolling Xbox fans, right, Jez?
Man, it is like they're being attacked from all sides. 343 is like, they're under such a microscope right now. And I agree with you that other studios don't have to endure this to the same degree. That, like, and some of it is self-inflicted. I think some of it is a case of, well, they need to prove themselves. And, Halo 4 had its multiplayer problems, and Halo 5 had its single-player problems. And now, like, you've got the lack of faith in 343, combined with the revolving door, senior developers being shuffled around or leaving the company completely, combined with COVID, and I think everyone across the spectrum, like, Halo is like this focal point. And there's memories of Cyberpunk still burning there in your mind, like of not wanting to allow yourself to be too excited for a major game release. Because if you let yourself get too excited and then it becomes like Cyberpunk on the Xbox One and PS4, GG, it's people are going to be sad and sorrowful and mournful, and right before Christmas. So I think, like, there is an absurd amount of pressure on 343 to deliver, because, like you said, even though Elder Scrolls might be a bigger franchise, it's not synonymous with the Xbox brand. It's like 343 carries the weight, the burden of proving that Microsoft can execute a AAA game that they made themselves without acquiring a studio to do it for them. I mean, you could say, like, yeah, Microsoft might have helped Psychonauts get over the finish line, but that's still their game. They still developed it using their money from their Kickstarter and their other games and their investment at the end of the day. And Microsoft acquired them. So you could argue that, without having like a complete spreadsheet that breaks down what Microsoft's contributions were to Psychonauts, if anything, you can firmly argue that, they acquired that game in to, like, so is that really proof that Microsoft can execute? And then you factor in things like, all the I don't want to say flops, but kind of flops that Microsoft has experienced over the last several years, and outside of your Forza and your Flight Sim, which are, like, in some ways potentially easier to execute. I think, like, when you don't have to marry a story and a narrative to a game, I think execution is definitely easier. I'm not downplaying the technical achievement that is Forza or Flight Simulator, but they don't have to marry that with a narrative and a story, with pacing, and have it make sense. That adds like a whole extra dimension of complexity, I feel like. And Microsoft hasn't really shown that it has the ability internally to execute a game on that scale, except for maybe like Gears of War. But even that is like, it's still not really up to that level that you want them to be at. Not in the same way that Naughty Dog is. So I feel like, 343 is dealing with the legacy of Halo, the burden of the fans' expectations for the Halo franchise. They're dealing with casual fans like me who, like, maybe they enjoy Halo, but at the same time, they're sort of more interested in how it's all going to play out. You're dealing with the fanboys who are going to hate Halo no matter what. You're dealing with Xbox marketing who are like, yeah, Halo's literally our brand. It's our Mario. It's our Sonic. I would argue that Master Chief is more iconic than Kratos easily, and more recognized for sure. And that is a brand that will be damaged if this game does not deliver. There's a huge amount of pressure from every angle. And then you got dickheads like us talking about it on a podcast for like however long, adding even more pressure potentially. So I do feel for the monumental task that 343 has to undertake. I just want the game to be good for the fans, at the end of the day. I want to see that Microsoft can deliver because it will cast the Halo effect, to use the industry term. If Halo is good, it'll elevate our expectations of all of their internal games that are coming out. It'll show that Microsoft is capable of delivering a good AAA big budget experience. Because if they can't show again that they can deliver, it's just like, where's all that money gone? Like, how much money has been wasted and how much of this project has been mismanaged? Because Halo Infinite must have cost a tremendous amount of money. There are so many developers that have been involved with this game. And it's like, what the hell has gone wrong with Microsoft's structure that has led to this game being such a difficult place? And the thing is, Rand, we have no idea if it's even going to be bad.
No, I mean, the game could be great.
It could be great.
I'm still of the opinion. I'm sitting here, and I've liked what I've seen from all the showings. I'll be honest about it. Like, I liked the 2020 demo. Like, I like the gameplay looked tight. Sure, it didn't like look super next gen or whatever, but I was like, hey, that is something I want to play. As a huge Halo fan, that spoke to me, right? Sure, I was disappointed by the delay last year, but I understand. Like, that's the other thing. Like, usually when games get delayed, Jez, people are like, this is good. Good for the game. We're going to get a better game in down the road, right? Yeah, everybody's always for delays. Always. I've never seen anybody, like, speak against a delay. There might be initial disappointment when something is announced for a delay, but usually everybody's like, if this results in a better product, then I'm 100% for it. Until this time. Until people started calling for Halo to get delayed for co-op and Forge, suddenly delays are a bad thing. And that I want the game immediately, even though we just kind of went through the whole Cyberpunk thing, right? But I'm going to be positive about it because I think the multiplayer is going to be amazing, even though I really don't like how the whole XP thing is. I really hope they change that because I just think that's a really, really bad change, and I think it focuses too much on the battle passes and all that stuff. And I'm going to remain like, you know what? I think the campaign is going to be really cool and good. Now, if it's not, if I play the game and the campaign is buggy and it's a mess and the story doesn't have a satisfying conclusion, and it definitely seems like they're setting this up as like, something that they're going to revisit constantly, then I'll speak my mind just like I do about everything. Like, I'm not afraid to criticize Xbox whenever, they do something I don't particularly like, even though other people may be quite okay. You recall, remember when I criticized them about Crackdown 3 and how they showed that off, and Xbox fans were pissed at me. They called me an Xbox traitor, even though I've literally gamed on Xbox a lot longer than most of them and spent more money than pretty much all of them and have more gamer score and played more Xbox games than virtually all of them. Somehow I wasn't...
mean, dude, you were playing Xbox before some of these people were even born, man.
I mean, like, the idea that I'm not an Xbox fan or whatever, that I'm some, like fake is, like, utterly absurd. But there are people that wanted to throw me out of the community. like some of you may not remember this, but like, you know, the video's still up about Crackdown 3, and I just didn't get it. Like, that also really made people angry at Microsoft. A lot of the executives were pissed at me and didn't talk to me for a while and stuff like that. Like, you know, it angered people, and you know, I've learned how to basically not be so abrasive because I use colorful language in that video. But hey, when Microsoft is like, we're gonna double the price of Xbox Live Gold to $120, I was out there making a video being like, the hell you are, you ain't getting away with this. I'm not standing for this stuff. I made videos about how they needed to get rid of the paywall for free-to-play games because it didn't make sense. It kind of held the platform back in a way where it's like, well, it makes you look bad because PlayStation and Nintendo aren't doing it. Even though maybe it has no effect, it's like you should really do it to keep up with your competitors. You know, like we talked at length. There was times where people were like, oh, Xbox 2 is too negative, blah, 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 blah. Like, I was concerned about the direction this brand was heading in. I was concerned that the quality of their first party studios were lacking, right? But then at the same time, like, so I've been there. I like from day one, I'm always going to speak my mind. I'm always going to be critical whenever I see a problem arise. But at the same time, I'm always going to be celebrate all the success that Xbox has done. I'm going to celebrate what I believe is a huge turnaround for the brand. You know, the things that Xbox is doing to, you know, make it better. How Game Pass is an amazing thing for the industry. How I think like Xbox Game Studios quality is going to jump up a notch, right? So if Halo Infinite comes out and I'm playing it and that campaign isn't good, I will definitely tell you guys about it and think, you know what, maybe there's a problem at 343 that needs to be fixed. Maybe the management needs a complete overhaul, which seems like they already kind of did with Joseph Staten coming in almost towards the end of development with, replacing Chris Lee. You know, like, but if the campaign's good and it's the best it's been and all that stuff, like, I'll also be like, you know what, 343 did it. Like, even though they had a lot of issues, COVID, all that different things, like building for the Xbox One, building for the PC, making sure everything, you know, they absolutely nailed it. So I'm not just going to sit here and be like, everything's amazing for Xbox, because most of the times it's not. I mean, even look what we talked about earlier. Like, I don't really think the Xbox Gamescom show, in my opinion, needed to actually happen. There wasn't that many big announcements. You know, I think it needed to be shorter. Like, those are things you can get across without being like, you know, talk about how everything, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, sucks, or it's an F, you know, stuff like that. It's like, you just need to take the feedback and learn from it. So, you know, if Halo's not good, we'll be there. I'll be there being like, well, I guess the people that wanted it delayed were right. It seems like there were problems at 343. So, you know,
That's
I'm just
the thing. It's like, what other game do we scrutinize to this degree? There just isn't other games that we scrutinize like this. Like, Halo has an absurd amount of microscopes on it right now, from every angle. And maybe that's fair, maybe it isn't. Because, and it's like I say, this has implications for the whole Xbox brand and their credibility, which, in a way, has implications for, like, you know, I don't know, the future of other Xbox games. Like, if they can't execute with 343, can they execute with these other studios? What's going on with the Coalition? We haven't heard a peep from them for ages. What's going on with all these other studios? Where's Ninja Theory? Where's Hellblade? And all this stuff. And it just throws added queries on the pile if they can't execute, given how much money has been thrown at this project. So maybe it's fair, maybe it isn't. But it ultimately comes down to this sort of historical lack of reliability, you know. And that's Microsoft's doing. Microsoft have done this. And it's, you know, it's fine and dandy to have hindsight and be like, well, you know, yeah, if they'd done this differently, if Terry Myerson hadn't been leading, if they'd had more faith in Xbox at the corporate level earlier on and stuff like that, great. But that's the situation we're in now. Only a time machine can fix that. And I don't think it's fair to expect Microsoft to build a time machine at the moment, at least. Maybe like after we discover like alien artifacts on Mars with Elon Musk's rocket ship or something. Maybe then we can be like Microsoft, build a time machine and go back and fix Crackdown or something. Uncancel Scalebound. There'll be people calling for that if Microsoft had a time machine, but we just have to wait and see. Like, I want to believe that the game's going to be good. I want to believe that Microsoft can deliver. I want to believe that they can execute an above average game. Psychonauts is certainly a hint that they can, or that there exists within the Xbox Studio stable, there exists the capacity to execute a campaign that works. You know, but again, they bought that game in. 343 has been there for a while, and you know, maybe if this doesn't deliver out of the gate, they really need to rethink who's leading that whole project.
Yeah. Shout out to Flame. He says, I just wish everyone complained like this for co-op. Blue Wall says Xbox is Fable and Microsoft. We kind of went on a rant here, so I missed some of these. Icyler says, if Horizon can be delayed leaving out a big game from Sony for the remainder of the year, then Halo can do it. Battlefield is here to comfort us until... and there wasn't the rest of it, but yeah, it's just you know, Sony had a good beginning of the year, and Xbox seems to have a much better end of the year. They basically kind of switch places. Microsoft always tends to focus towards the end of the year, and I've mentioned this before. I kind of want them to start more spreading their games out, which I think they will eventually. So,
I mean, Game Pass will see to that, right?
Yeah, well, hopefully, you know. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see how Halo Infinite comes out. You know, December 8th, we'll all be there playing. I'm sure everybody will have their opinion. I got my fingers crossed that the campaign is going to be really good. You know, I want it to be really good as a huge Xbox fan. I don't like the XP changes for multiplayer, but I'll still be there playing the multiplayer day one, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I hopefully they, you know, revisit those changes. So I don't know. I think people are just really passionate about Halo regardless, and they want not only what's best for Halo and 343, but also like they want Xbox to really shine essentially.
Yeah.
So, and you know, there is that public perception sometimes that people get into about like oh, this is just people just hating on Xbox or whatever, but you know, I don't know. Like I
think a lot of Xbox fans are just worried that they'll give people an excuse to hate on Xbox. I think, you know, it's the weird thing when you're building a game that carries the weight of the whole brand. It's just the way it works, I guess.
Yeah. DS Omen says, "What do we think about the future of Double Fine? Think they may do another another Psychonauts level game next, or maybe just focus on smaller projects?" I think they've already said their next game is new IP, and Tim has already talked about how they are going to be a multi-team, multi-project approach, so multi-team. Not saying that they won't go back to Psychonauts at some point, but I think maybe their next two games are going to be probably won't be Psychonauts related. Maybe they do envision a Psychonauts 3 if they have like... Because the way it sounds like is like they pitch something to Matt Booty and he likes it, so it's like, okay, do it. If they have like something they really want to say with the Psychonauts franchise, then they'll probably revisit it. Is kind of what I see. But yeah, the next two projects will definitely be... One of them's for sure a new IP. I don't know necessarily it'll be smaller, but I wouldn't expect Psychonauts another Psychonauts project for years later. Biggie Butter says all the concern and talk about Halo is a true testament to what Halo means to millions of gamers. Yeah, if nobody really cared about Halo, there wouldn't be any of this talk, essentially. But you know, still can't wait. Foreskin of Exodia says, with the relationship Xbox has with Remedy, why is there no talks on acquisition? Also, do you think Control or Alan Wake 2 will be exclusive? I think Xbox Xbox's relationship with Remedy was sort of fractured when they were working on Quantum Break. I think it came in late and way over budget. And Xbox was going in a different, like, they weren't going, like, I don't think they had a lot of funding from Meyerson, so, like, they went in a different direction. I think maybe you would look at a different scenario if Game Pass was around then, but I don't think Remedy is looking to be bought. They're an independent studio. They're actually on the stock market in, I forget what country they're in, but they got a lot of projects. You know, they have the project with Epic that a lot of that people assume is Alan Wake 2. I think they've talked about doing a Control 2. They have this game Vanguard, which is like the project title for like this like multiplayer game. They're doing the single player for Crossfire X. So yeah, I just don't really see Xbox purchasing Remedy. There are rumors that one of Remedy's next games is PlayStation exclusive, and we do know like PlayStation tends to want to do a game with a developer before they consider buying them, like they did with Housemarque. So maybe in the future Remedy goes with PlayStation, but I don't know. I think Xbox's relationship with Remedy really was fractured over the whole Quantum Break thing, honestly, and. They did show the new trailer for Crossfire X. We were wondering when it was coming out. They said soon. Like what's soon, Jez? Like when is this Crossfire game coming? Because it seems like it's been a bit.
That gives them a whole few months to play with, doesn't it? I said it'd be out by the end of the year, so who knows? Maybe they'll be hilarious and launched it up against Halo. I mean, they could, right?
Yeah.
Just have to wait. Find out. I have no idea. I have no insight into that whatsoever.
And make sure you guys hit the like button if you're enjoying
in
the show. And yes, today is my birthday. I've seen some people in the chat. But like, is it your birthday? Indeed it is. I'm 40 years old. My life is over. Yes. And we spent a lot of this podcast talking about Halo. Like, I thought talk would die out, but this past week, it was all people wanted to talk about was Halo, 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 and how everybody felt about it. So, what else happened? New Starfield info, Jez.
Yes.
Concept art talking about some of the planets you'll visit. I want to see gameplay. Hopefully, Bethesda takes that next step. And Starfield is. I know people are worried that maybe Starfield's more like No Man's Sky, but what the concept art looks cool, but I want to see what it would look like in the game. I did see they tweeted it out, so I guess those were unlisted and people found them, so I think they made them public now. So there's more information about Starfield out. Activision keeps on being in the news, removed their logo from Call of Duty. They are changing McCree's name in Overwatch. Like, Activision is just toxic at this point in time. Like, yeah, Overwatch, we're going to solve this issue. We're going to change McCree's name to something else. Like, okay, what? Sure.
Yeah, they're doing similar in Warcraft as well, because there's a bunch of NPCs in Warcraft from people who've been fired, and they put out a statement about Warcraft saying not only they're removing the names of some of the people that were involved in that stuff, but they're also like all the stuff that people have been complaining about for months in World of Warcraft. Like some of the time gating mechanics, they're removing all of those as well. And it's like, this is what it took for you to listen to our feedback? Like, they're on this charm offensive right now because Activision realizes that, like, they can't get away with the excuse anymore that they make the games like this for any reason other than they're being dicks. And now that, like, they're on this big charm offensive to show that they're not dicks, they've removed all these mechanics that were unnecessary to be there in the beginning. So it just proves that they were being dicks the whole time. I am like, I don't care what they do. I am so done with Blizzard. They are dead to me. Blizzard is dead to me as a studio, and it's just so depressing that it's happened this way. And I'm not even surprised, Rand, because I wrote an article years ago about, like, Activision devouring Blizzard, and I'm not saying Activision's to blame for all the stuff that went down, but the fact that people hated them in the beginning anyway was all Activision's doing, and the fact that they won't recover from this is Activision's doing. So it is what it is, but that's the death of Blizzard in my mind.
Yeah, the death of Blizzard. It's pretty bad. That was like your favorite studio, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was my favorite studio.
I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry that.
Well, I'm just sorry for the victims of the bullshit.
Yeah, that too. But to see
that's the main thing. But it's just the way that it's all sort of panned out. It exposed that all their development decisions were made by the boardroom just wanting to siphon money. You know, the fact that they're stripping them out now just proves that those mechanics needn't have been there in the first place, and they're just like they're doing it now to try and save face. It's just really shitty, you know. But whatever.
George says so. No acquisition talk. Acquisition. Haven't we talked about this before? Microsoft talking to companies. Whether or not those companies end up getting acquired, who knows? Talks go on for a long, long time. They break down for whatever reason. Like I understand people want more acquisitions. Like I get it, even though Xbox has 23 studios at this point in time. I get, especially when Matt Booty and Phil and Satya Nadella all talk about investing in studios and stuff like that. But to expect acquisitions to happen on a certain timetable is ridiculous. Even if people make up hashtag acquisition season, right? Like because I get this all the time, and it's just like they'll happen when it happens, and it won't happen any sooner than that. Like I understand, like you want news and you want great things and you want them to buy IO Interactive or whatever, but like these sort of things take time to complete. And then sometimes they completely fall apart. Like, it is what it is, man. Like, as much as, I would love for Microsoft to buy another great studio because that's more content for me to make. But, like, I'm not sitting here being like, where's the acquisitions? Because I know what goes behind. It's like, I don't know. It's like, just, they'll happen. Like, they're going to buy more studios. Just calm down and wait for it all to just unfold. Like, it's, despite people saying, like, that they're imminent or whatever, or it's happening within a season, who knows? Like, just let it all unfold. Jeez. Like, it seems like we always got to address that all the time, you know? John says, the having no games thing is over for your birthday. Good times are ahead for us. I think the success of this podcast has been making me feel good and be excited about gaming. Yeah, me and Jez just, we talk about what we want to talk about. And, a lot of the concern this past week was Halo. People want it delayed. People don't want it delayed. What's up with the XP? Why aren't they showing the campaign? Is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? Why is it coming in December? Like, all these sort of things. And we'll find out for sure when we play it on December 8th. Like, trust me, if that game's not good, you're going to hear about it. Not only from me and Jez, but from everybody else in the industry. Like, and then people will be like, well, then something needs to happen at 343. But if the game's great, you'll still definitely hear about it. So we don't have that much longer to wait. We really don't. Geez, is there anything else, Jez? Like, did we cover everything we wanted to? Was there any other news this week that we need to talk about?
Yeah, man. I think that was it. It's like, it's still like, even though Gamescom's been and gone, it's still slow. There's just like there wasn't any major big epic news at Gamescom, I guess. But we get into that point now where there's just gonna be quiet, and then there's gonna be a sudden flood of stuff to talk about. There's gonna be like tons of games coming out. There's gonna be drama. Like this is like the first sort of holiday season that's going to really reveal the true scale of the impact of COVID, I think. Because last year we got a bunch of games that was sort of like wrapping up development, blah, 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 in the middle of the pandemic. And some of them were impacted or delayed a bit. But like now we've got games that were deep in the middle of development while COVID was going on. So like, what's Battlefield gonna look like? Like, there's been reports of Call of Duty being a shit show this year as well, and all that kind of stuff. So it's gonna be a fun, interesting year for games, I think. But I don't know. Either way,
Dude, there's
there'll be
tons
some
of
play.
games coming out soon, man. Like,
Mhm.
you got Life is Strange: True Colors. You got Lost Judgment. You got Tales of
Tales of Arise.
Arise, right? Or
I'm all
Tales
over
is
that.
it Tales of Arise, right? You
Tales of Arise,
have you have Far Cry 6. You have Battlefield 2042. You got Guardians of the Galaxy. You have Back for Blood. You have Forza Horizon 5. You have Call of Duty Vanguard. You got
Yeah.
Halo Infinite, and those are just the big AAA releases. Let alone like some of the smaller games like The Artful Escape and Kenna and Deathloop, which comes out next month on PlayStation. There's just so many games to play. And I'm someone who tries to play as many of them as I can get my hands on. So I'll be definitely busy this fall because I pretty much want to play everything. I'm even interested in trying out Tales of Arise, even though it's been a long time since I played a Tales game. I'm interested in playing, Life is Strange, to see the new take on it, like all the episodes at once, which I think is probably the best way to go about it. Of course, then there's FIFA, right? There's the new 2K that always comes out every year. There's NHL. Like, there's so many games coming out all the time. Stuff hitting Game Pass. Scorn's still supposed to be this holiday. Gunk is in December. Like, so much stuff. So it's a great time. It's a great time to be a gamer. We got plenty to play. So
Yes,
I think with that, we're gonna come to the end of the show. If you enjoyed it, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe if you're new. If you have any questions, make sure you put them in the chat. Me and Jez will answer them. So we appreciate everyone being here on Friday. Thank you so much for all the birthday wishes here on, in the chat as well as on Twitter. I'll try to get to everybody's tweets or as best as I can. Jez will have this up as soon as possible on the Googles and the iTunes and stuff like that. So thank you guys so much for rocking out with the Xbox 2 this week. And go listen to Jez on Defining Duke with Cognito and Mr. Matty Plays. RDX Son of Fett says, can't wait for Scorn and Exomecha. Yeah, Exomecha got delayed to next year. Looked interesting. Christian Boric says, happy birthday, Rand. You're my favorite YouTube guy. Always look forward to your videos and podcasts. Thank you. That truly means a lot when people say that. Caloric says, have you heard reports on Leu losing people and projects being canned? Reports are Tencent never cared about Leu and itself and just 20% stake in certain affinity they had. Jez, what did you hearing about that?
Yeah, so I did see this. Like, there's some outlets put out some reports that Leu is being treated poorly as part of the acquisition. Don't really know a huge amount about it, but I'm gonna try and do some digging up by myself to see what's going on there, if anything. So, yeah, I'm not exactly shocked. You know what, Rand? It almost makes me wonder: was that a strategic play to stop Xbox from acquiring Splash Damage? I do wonder that.
Well, wasn't Sony also in the running? I thought they were the other ones in the running for Leu.
Yeah, maybe, but like, it feels like the biggest loss there is Xbox, right? The Splash Damage contributed to a lot of the recent Gears games and the past Gears games as well, and they basically made Gears Tactics. So, I'm just wondering, like, what the hell went wrong there?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's a good question. M9 says Crossfire X this year. And they said in their trailer coming soon. So, and it said the multiplayer 2021 trailer. So I'm assuming yes. We just don't know when. You think you would know by August, but who knows? I'm only really interested in the campaign of that game, and I wonder if all the like there was supposed to be some weird way they were going to release it, like monthly tied to the battle pass or whatever. I don't know. Adam says, do you think Compulsion will be revealed their game at the awards this year? I mean, it's certainly possible. We know Microsoft will probably have something at the Game Awards. I think that's part of the reason why they gave the Halo stuff to Jeff, outside of liking his numbers and metrics and viewership and stuff. I think Compulsion's game is probably... See, this is the thing. I think we'll see some of the VGAs. And if I had to guess right now, I think it'll be Kojima's game. Because that would definitely... You have people tune in for the VGAs, and that is an announcement you want to make. Kojima working on a game exclusively for Xbox. That would send waves through the industry when everybody's watching. Compulsion's game, I see more of an E3 announcement, so more next year. But I also wonder, maybe there's a 20th anniversary sort of thing. They could announce it then too, but if I had to take a guess, I would imagine Compulsion is next year. We'll see whatever they are working on. RDX Son of Fett says Tunic. Yeah, is that game still on schedule for this year, Jez? Do you know?
I have no idea. It's hard to tell with indie games because things are often a little bit fluid there, I guess. I hope so though, because Tunic looks pretty rad.
Right.
It looks like it could be like the death's door of that sort of cycle or whatever.
Yeah. Hopefully it comes out soon. Whittier says, Happy birthday, Rand Jez. With all of this happen, will Cyberpunk 2077 still be nominated for the Keeleys? And what's your girlfriend's cat's name?
Girlfriend's cat's name is Newly, actually. And will they nominate that for the Keeleys? I don't think so, but not necessarily because it's bad or anything. Just because games that come out in December are forgotten and barely ever get nominated, from what I remember anyway. Could be wrong about that, but I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to get nominated. Tony Art says, have you guys played the Riders Republic beta? It is super fun and it plays great as well. Day one for me for sure. Actually, I haven't checked it out. I haven't checked it out. I did see some videos and it did look really cool. I'm not really one to play betas too much. I played Halo because it's Halo, but I was probably just going to get that game regardless. Have you played it or seen much of it, Jez?
I haven't played it myself. I heard good things about it though. I've got a few friends who've been playing it and tweeting about it here and there. So I've heard good things about it, but I personally haven't tried it myself.
Right. Let's see here. Forzathon is back, says, do y'all think Microsoft will launch an internal probe into 343 after Halo Infinite launches? Clearly there are some big issues that need to be addressed there. Well, I think they sort of addressed some of that already by hiring Joseph Staten and bringing him on, getting Chris Lee out of there. I'm sure they'll do a post-mortem, about the development, about what worked and what didn't work with Halo Infinite. Like I said, it depends. Halo Infinite can still come out and be amazing, or it may not be. So we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I'm sure. I think what Microsoft will be concerned about is how it's received, and then how's the multiplayer. Are people engaging with the multiplayer? Are they buying the Battle Pass? Are they choosing to spend their time with Halo Infinite or other things? And I'm sure they have metrics that they'll look at to be like, okay, what's the issue here? Right? So all those things will come into play once the game comes out. So I'm sure they'll probably, or we'll definitely look into, because I would be I'd be like, why is my Halo game in the state it is? And they got rid of the one guy, and I do think a lot of it has to do with management and maybe feature creep coming into the title. So we'll see. Z Bagger says, Jez, how are you able to see Quake 3 on Game Pass when it's banned in Germany?
I don't think it is banned in Germany anymore. Recently, Germany unbanned a bunch of games. They unbanned Gears of War 2, I think it was, that was banned. But fairly recently, they unbanned a load of games. Maybe Quake was among those. They weren't banned. They were unrated or something like that. So they would have had to get a new rating for Quake 3, and it seems like they did. So if it's banned, no, it's not banned.
Right.
But my Xbox is set to UK anyway, so I tend to bypass that stuff regardless.
Ooh, he's being a rebel, breaking the law. X the
Yellow.
Gamer says, "Do you know why they have started changing the grips on limited edition controllers? Look like it's made of two parts. A new controller design, maybe?" I did notice that in the videos. I wonder. Actually, I don't really know if that's new, or if that's just a cool way to like overlay it for a video. You know, to like kind of. Well, actually, isn't the new limited edition like Aqua Shift come with the rubberized grips on the handles now, whereas like the regular Xbox controller doesn't? Maybe that's the way of showing that it has those rubberized grips for the limited edition controllers that the Elite Series 2 had. Stodgy Caesar says, "Happy birthday, Rand. Question for Jez. Why was saying releases by bot studios don't count? Realistically, that shouldn't matter because they're under the Xbox banner." So, like you saying Psychonauts 2 doesn't count because they started production in of the game and they didn't buy them to 2019 and.
Yeah, I mean, I only said it potentially doesn't count. I mean, like, I just mean in the context of, do we know that the studios before the acquisition spree can deliver? You know, I don't think. I'm just playing devil's advocate there. I'm not saying Psychonauts doesn't count as an Xbox Studios game. I'm just saying, like, I'd just like to believe that all of the games can be that quality moving forward. That's all.
Right.
It does count.
Nine Life says, "Early E3 2022 predictions." Man, you want early predictions? All right. Starfield gameplay demo probably with Todd. Redfall gameplay. What else? Compulsion's new game will be unveiled. Gameplay for Contraband. Avowed gameplay.
Is this E3 next year?
Yeah, E3 2022.
Yeah, I think we should see Project Dragon teased, maybe.
Yeah, you could tease it.
Or maybe not. Maybe it's still too early.
I'm still trying to think. Fable, Perfect Dark. Could they show up next year?
Well, dude, like
Forza Motorsport for sure.
They have so much stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Potentially, they could start showing off next year.
No, but they definitely Hellblade 2 for sure. Yeah,
I think they'll continue holding stuff back. You know, they'll spread things out. Once they get to a point where they've just got tons of stuff, they can just start sprinkling it out, and it will feel like a relentless assault of constant updates for various games. I'm like thinking, like, how am I gonna cover all this stuff with my small team? I literally won't have any time for any game that isn't Xbox eventually, I think. But yeah.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot, potentially be a lot. Because Xbox has a lot of titles hitting 2023 and beyond. So 2022 is probably when you want to start sowing a lot of that stuff. So Nathan says Avowed at the VGAs. I think the rumor is that they had something for E3, but it was pulled. It's possible Avowed could be at the VGAs. They did say that they were going to show it sometime soon, but, you know, plans change. So we'll just have to wait and see. I think the Kojima thing will be at the VGAs. It's possible they also show Avowed or they hold off for E3. L. Paul says, Minecraft Dungeons is on Steam. Is that a big deal? Is that a big deal, Jez? That Minecraft Dungeons is on Steam now?
I have no idea, frankly. It's hard to tell how well that game has done, really. I mean, I know it's done pretty well, but I don't know if it's like got the long tail sort of constant engagement that they really wanted. I mean, considering how much they probably spent on it, it's done extremely well indeed. But I just sort of feel like, I don't know. I don't know if like they're gonna keep working on it or just sort of leave it alone at some point.
Right.
I wonder if the Steam thing represents the end of the road, and they're just gonna be like, yeah, we're done now. We're done doing expansions for it or whatever, and then they're gonna move on. I've stopped playing it because I didn't have it. I didn't have anyone to play with. B, I just sort of like I didn't get along with the new levels or the way they were sort of sorted out, and I just sort of hit a wall where they nerfed some of my gear, and then I was stuck and I couldn't progress without going backwards, and I just didn't have time for it. But I don't know. I hope it does continue, and I hope it is doing well. But I do wonder. I haven't tried the new DLC at all.
The one and only Pong Soul says, "Hey, Jez, with the announcements of Spellforce 3 and Crusader Kings 3 coming to Xbox, is this the start of more strategy RTS games finally coming to console? Please say yes." It is interesting, right? Age of Empires 4 is launching in October. I think it'll come to console at some point.
I'm pretty sure Age of Empires 4 is coming to console.
Not at launch, obviously.
Not at launch, no, but I'm pretty sure it is. Like, I would bet money and say 95% that it's coming to console. I would expect that we'll see Age of Empires on console. Age of Empires 4. Do we think that more games will hit Xbox from that genre? I think, like, some games have done pretty well. Like, the strategy simulation genre has done pretty well on Xbox. Like, City Skylines did well. Surviving Mars did really well on Xbox. But, like, for RTS, which is sort of more reactive and tactical and stuff, I think it's more difficult because of the control schemes and stuff like that. And also Microsoft, like, they've done absolutely nothing to push mouse and keyboard on Xbox. They've done nothing. So, like, if Age of Empires 4 does indeed release on Xbox, as I expect, they're going to do some kind of controller thing with it. And I wouldn't be surprised if you can't even use mouse and keyboard at all. Because no one uses their Xbox like that. And Microsoft hasn't pushed it or advertised it at all. Crusader Kings 3 is not a surprise because they did Stellaris as well on Xbox. It's really tough to play on Xbox because of how complicated it is, but they did do it at least. I would like to hope so. I really do think Microsoft needs to come up with a way to bridge the gap between mouse and keyboard and controllers. Microsoft needs to do that. Like, I noticed that, like, the Steam Deck, for example, they have those, like, little touch pads which can sort of mimic a mouse cursor. I don't know if that's a great solution. I haven't tried it myself, but if it works, Microsoft needs to consider doing something like that. Give us cursor control on Xbox so that games can come to PC and make sense. You know?
Right.
But that's part of a bigger discussion, probably.
So hopefully that answers your question, Pong. But I think we'll see more strategy RTS games come. If you know.
Yeah, I think we will. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they will. Jack wants to know why I only have 5 days on Halo Master Chief Collection. Only 5 days. What is that? That's what 70? No, what is that? 125 hours, right? My quick. No, that would be 120 hours. What are you saying? Why I only played Halo Master Chief Collection for 120 hours? Is that not long enough for you? Considering I played all those games when they first came out, and I don't really like replaying stuff. I replayed through all the campaigns more than once. I don't know. Like, I've never had somebody say that to me. Like, why have you only played this game for 150 hours? Like, most people you probably talk to in this community didn't probably play that for more than 10 hours, let alone play it at all. Like, what?
No, I was looking at some of the achievement stats the other day, and only 2% of Pillars of Eternity players have completed the game.
I was looking at Psychonauts.
That's the reality. Most people don't complete games.
I was looking at the achievement percentages for Psychonauts 2, and only 40% have actually beat the tutorial level. It's weird. I know it's in Game Pass, but it's like, so you're telling me 60% of people who loaded up Psychonauts 2 didn't get past the first 20 minutes? It's like weird. Let's see. John H says, when does an Xbox 2 and RDX crossover happen? I mean, that's kind of too big to do a crossover. There's so many guys on RDX. You got Dealer and Fonz and Tim Dog and D-Batch and Zocker, and I've been on RDX a bunch. Jez has been on RDX.
The problem with RDX is it's on too late for me.
Yeah,
and same with Colt's podcast. It's on too damn late for me.
Yeah, I've had Tim on here. I've had Dealer on my channel. So I don't know if we'll ever see me and Jez and then everybody from RDX on a show, but we pop in back and forth for each other's podcasts, right? Let's see. Zero Myth says we need a dev diary about Halo Infinite. Well, they kind of been releasing videos and the updates for it and stuff. So,
I think that's one thing that I've really noticed has been scaled back is the whole dev diary thing. Like a lot of studios have stopped doing that, and that's because like you can't just have a production company come and do it now. Like before the days of COVID, you could just like have a production company come into your studio, you flip your chair around at your desk, you talk to them for a little bit, and then they go on. But now everyone's working remote. Doing a lot of this stuff from home is just not really feasible. And it also like it takes a lot out of the day because, they have to be the ones to do all that stuff. They have to be the ones who put in the work and stuff. So I think that's why we don't see those kind of things as much as we used to. But hopefully with, vaccines, we'll get back to normal at some point.
Yeah, I actually saw somebody say, Quasman says, Jez, share with us the cult thing, please.
Oh dear. This is a long story.
Uh-oh.
Was that a super chat?
No, that was just a regular question.
Okay,
Do you want to save that for a different show? So it's because
Nah.
we're kind of getting late. You want to answer it now? All right.
I'll answer it. But I'll give you the short version. Okay, so there was a viral tweet that was like, name something in your life that happened that made people react like, what the fuck, kind of thing. And I quote tweeted, I was in a cult. And I don't know if I've ever told you this story, Rand. Maybe I have or haven't. But in my early teens, well, not even my teens, like in my pre-teens, basically, like I was about 11 or 12, I met a dude who said to me, do you believe in magic? And if that doesn't sound creepy enough, it gets even worse from here. And I was like, no, I don't believe in magic. And I thought like it was a trick question or something. But anyway, he was like, I can prove to you that magic is real. And he explained to me that he had detected that within my soul, there lived an immortal. And as I was going through puberty, my immortal soul would wake up, and my destiny is to join him and his group to psychically fight demons who are trying to invade our world.
Okay.
Yeah. And I, even as a kid, I thought this guy is crazy, but this is also amazing. So I'm going to go along with it. Incredibly dangerous, but I did it anyway because I was a moron. And he was about in his early 20s, I would say, at the time. And he had a bunch of teens in his little clique who were all sort of loners and obscure kids. They were all sort of like various ages, from like my age all the way through to like 18. They were all younger than him. There was never anything weird, like in an abuse kind of way. Like sometimes you get that with cults, right? But there was never anything like that. I thought at the time it was just some kind of weird role-playing group, like a LARP thing. Like they were all super nerds. This was their LARP, their live-action role-play thing, And this was their live-action role-playing thing. But the more I got into this group, the more I realized that they actually believed this shit. And they actually like would sit around and meditate, but they were psychically fighting demons on the astral plane while this was all going on, right? And then they'd come out of the meditation and they'd say things like, "Oh man, I killed 5 demons today. How many did you kill?" It was like fucking anime, man. It was like, seriously, it was like roleplay. And that's what I thought it was as a kid. But as I got older, I realized, man, these people believe this shit. Because I remember there was this one girl who had like literally a fucking sword under her bed. She was like about 16 or 17, and I was like about 13 at this time. She had like a huge fucking sword under her bed, and it was sharp. And like they used to talk about how demons would manifest in the real world sometimes, and they'd have to like kill them with real weapons. And I'm like, I really hope they're joking around about this shit. But like, dude, this went on for years, man. I think like when I was about I was about 16, and I started going out more, and with my school friends, and I stopped like spending time with these people. And I didn't speak to them for like years, and like I met one of them, and they all had like special names, by the way, like fantasy names, like weird names. We all did. We all had like these special names, and like the leader would say, "Oh, I know your name. I remember your soul. Your soul is this name," and he'd come up with all the names for everyone. And I remember I met one of them when I was about 18, and I hadn't seen him for about 3 years. And I was like, man, do you remember that weird group? That weird group and all that weird stuff we did when we were kids? That was so funny. And the guy was like, what do you mean? And I was like, that whole like joking around thing. He's like, I wasn't joking around. It wasn't a joke, Jez.
Is this
I was like, okay. Slowly backing away, and that was the last time I ever spoke to any of them. So like, those guys believed that shit, and I was just along for the ride. But yeah, that was very interesting for years. I told school friends about it. I got some of my school friends involved, and they joined, and it was just a big joke to us, man. It's just so weird.
Is this why you love Pokemon? Is this what led to your love of Pokemon?
Well, dude, since then, like other people, I've told this story to a bunch of people. Some people had told me that it was what they were role playing was basically the plot of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
What?
Like I've never seen Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but someone told me like, dude, this sounds like Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Like a secret society of people who like fight demons or something in like secret and stuff. So like I don't know if this guy was just like he just wanted to have this fantasy that he was like important and that he was saving the world or something. And then there was like a bunch of kids who were just super lonely and wanted to feel part of something. But it could have been so much worse. And it just sort of makes me think like this is how people get sucked into that kind of thing, like a cult thing. They want to feel like they're part of something and belong and stuff. But man, it was a weird time. It was a weird time in my life. I've tried to find some of them since, like online, tried to look them up, but I can't find any of them.
This is definitely the weirdest one of the weirdest stories I've ever listened to.
Well, someone asked and I wanted to know, and that's like, I mean, there's so many other aspects of this shit, but in the interest of time. I mean, like I said, this went on for years. This went on for literal years. I was 11 years old when it started, and I stopped speaking to them when I was about 16, 17.
Crazy. And like Space says in chat, most likely Jez was the cult leader.
Nah. I don't know. It was so weird. It was so weird. But oh well. My life's full of weird shit like that.
That was a very, very strange story. Hope everybody enjoyed that. I wonder how many people are actually, there's like 800 people listening to this right now. So
my apologies.
I mean, now they know what your whole cult experience was like. Did it have a name? Could you name the cult, or you do not remember it?
No, they didn't really have a name.
It wasn't like Buffy the Vampire Slayer cosplayers or something?
I don't know. They didn't have a name. But man, it was just so weird. Like one of the girls, like she said, this was so weird. I was about 13, 14, maybe less, maybe 12. And she was like, I'm going to do battle with a very powerful soul demon tomorrow, and I'm not sure which of the others are compromised. So I'm going to give you a piece of my soul to look after. So if my soul gets lost in the astral plane, you can use this as an anchor to pull me out of the astral plane. Now, she sent me this with a letter written in what I presume to be blood. What? And she said that demons couldn't detect blood, human blood. So that was the only way or something. I can't remember. There was some excuse why it had to be written in blood. But she sent me this letter written on parchment in blood with a necklace which had like an amethyst sort of purple stone on it. I still have her soul to this day. Like this necklace that supposedly contains part of her soul. I still have this necklace. It's at my house in England. So, yeah, I got a letter written in blood with someone's soul as part of this cult.
Okay.
They took this shit seriously, man. It was
I
serious business.
mean, I can definitely tell. Yeah. And there's always girls in these too. That's how they get you, right? Was there a
Yeah,
girl you liked?
no, I was much younger than them. I wasn't even interested in girls then. But
Yeah.
like I was much younger. I was the youngest at the time.
Flame says this sounds like a weird, creepy pasta. Quote: I turned around before I left, and the cult was gone, dissolved into the janitor's closet. Yeah.
Seriously, like they vanished. Like I saw that one guy, and I said to him like that whole thing was funny, right? And he said, "What? It was real. What are you talking about?" And since then, I haven't seen or heard from any of them ever again.
Well, I guess it's good if you're leaving me for Defining Duke. I'll have to look for a new co-host, one that hasn't been in a cult, I suppose. So that was a very interesting story time with Jez Corden.
It was wild, man.
Yeah. Space Dovakin says the Goatee 13. Let's see what else. Lydia says, Jez, have you played 12 minutes? I don't think you have, right? Not yet, at least.
No, I haven't found 12 minutes spare yet.
Yeah. And Blue Alt says, what do you think about Dove 5 or Doke V?
Oh, it's Doke, is it Doka V or something? I can't remember how it's pronounced, but that was one of the games announced at Opening Night Live. It's basically I can't remember the studio now. You can say it in chat, but there's a fairly big studio making a Pokemon knockoff, basically. But it looks like a next-gen Pokemon. It has like really impressive graphics and effects and animations and stuff. Basically, it's the Pokemon that people have been asking Nintendo to make that they refuse to make. And it's got a lot of hype behind it right now. As someone in chat might know the name of the studio, I can't remember it off the top of my head. But that is a thing that's coming, and I doubt Rand is going to be very interested in it. But it does look pretty cool.
Yeah. Adam says she's the one, Jez, go find her. Lord Starkiller says, just started playing Psychonauts 2 on xCloud using my Razer Kishi. It's great that Game Pass offers so many games to play on xCloud. Looking forward to xCloud on console. Yeah. Face says, Randy, are you going to play Horizon Zero Dawn now that it's 60 frames on PS5? Yeah, that's what I was holding out for. I knew they eventually were going to do it. It just sucks that they held it for bad news when, because they essentially held it for the time. Like, oh, by the way, Horizon Forbidden West is delayed, but here's a 60 FPS patch for Horizon Zero Dawn. It's like they could have essentially put that out earlier or whatever. But yeah, I'll definitely be playing Horizon Zero Dawn because I only played like 2 hours and was just open world fatigue. But we got 60 frames now. We've ascended beyond 30 frames. So
yes, we have.
Yeah. I mean, I figured they would do it eventually. But yeah, I'll definitely play Horizon Zero Dawn before Horizon Forbidden West comes out. So, what else we got here? Anything else? I think that's it. So, thank you guys for tuning in to the birthday special. Hit 40 years old, which is just sad. I hope you enjoyed the stories that Jez told about his cult experience. Make sure he doesn't forget it. Make sure you tweet him about it on Twitter. DM him to get more details. But we'll be back next week, first week of September, hopefully with more to talk about. I'm sure people will still be complaining about Halo or something. So, you got anything to say before we end the show, Jez?
No, man. Thank you very much for joining us, and I'll see you next week. And happy birthday to you, Rand.
Thank you.
When I see you in real life next time, I will owe you a drink.
Awesome. E3 next year.
Yeah,
so
well, maybe.
Make sure you guys go play Psychonauts 2 because it's pretty damn cool. And yeah, keep it gaming, and we'll